Chapter 1900. Dispersion. He's become stronger? Thought the members of Jalakandra Fairyland as they watched Lin Feng. They were all amazed by his strength. Lin Feng's comprehension was incredible. He was supposed to be a medium-level emperor, but he was way too strong for that. Lin Feng, it seems hell can't win this battle anymore. A strong cultivator from Jalakandra Fairyland said to Lin Feng. Those people were prepared a long time ago, and came here. They were very organized. When we saw them arrive, we hastily formed an army. Who do you think had the best chance to win? Asked Lin Feng. The outsiders, of course. In the past, we always had the advantage, though. Of course. Hell can quickly win again. A year's time isn't much. When the time comes, everybody will disperse, and we'll be able to create an army in secret. Then, we'll come back and win. Lin Feng said calmly. The others nodded agreement. Indeed. That was fine too. This place was here to practice and become stronger in anyway. What should we do? We can't live together on the same battlefield. We have to make everybody disperse for real, Lin Feng said. Then he pointed at a small group and said, let's go. Let's destroy that group. We'll also become stronger, and it'll be helpful for everybody else on our side. Lin Feng was thinking of solutions which were good for him. During the coming year, he'd be able to fight and go to the other side to head back to the continent of the 9 clouds. He couldn't stay in hell his entire life. He had also made an agreement with the Moon Group. Initially, they had 3 years and now less than 2 years were left. He had to get back to the continent of the 9 clouds during the coming year. Lin Feng and the strong cultivators of Jalakandra Fairyland gathered together and destroyed some small bands. Condensed death strength, shouted Lin Feng. His pattern appeared again, and they condensed death strength which moved towards the pattern. Some enemies attacked Lin Feng, and the others at the same time. Lin Feng waved his hands. Life and death lights appeared, and turned into a thread of death chi. He waved his hands again, and black water washed out towards his opponents. The black water and the death chi surged towards the enemies who retreated quickly. However, Lin Feng waved his hands again, and the black water surged crazily, drowning some people within. When the water disappeared, those people fell dying. The strong cultivators from Jalakandra Fairyland chased them and killed them before picking up their loot. The outsiders pulled long faces. What a powerful black water! Lin Feng's attacks were extremely powerful, with the help of his friends from Jalakandra Fairyland. Die, said Lin Feng. Death strength turned into death swords and pierced through the air. The strong cultivators of Jalakandra Fairyland felt even better. Lin Feng's Dao power was becoming better and better. They could continue lending death strength to Lin Feng, and nobody would be able to resist them. Lin Feng's achievements on the path of life and death were incredible. The battle continued. It was constant and cruel, and corpses kept falling into the yellow springs. Finally, the 2 armies resolved into a gigantic line. It was getting more and more difficult to find people fighting. They had truly dispersed, and the battle had lost all sense of organization. Lin Feng killed a strong cultivator with death strength, and looked at the strong cultivators of Jalakandra Fairyland. We should move. Where are we going? I need to practice for some time, and then I'll come back and continue fighting. In 1 year, we can form another army. You can also do what you wish. If you have other plans, it doesn't matter. But the best thing would be not to disperse. After all, we have to stay safe, said Lin Feng. Everybody nodded. We already did all we could. The battle is already broken up, and we can't do much more. At the same time, we should also inform other people. We need a bigger army, and then we can come back and kill them. One of the other cultivators spoke up. All right. I'm sure other people think the same as you. It's better to be prepared just in case, said Lin Feng. Their group started leaving the Milky Way battlefield. They had obtained many treasures and become stronger. They had to think about their own destiny too, though. This battle was too dangerous. Lin Feng and the others noticed some battles here and there, but they didn't get involved. They didn't want to risk their lives. Sometimes they bumped into some weak people and just killed them. When they left the Milky Way battlefield, they noticed some people who had fought with them against the outsiders. They didn't fight against one another anymore. They just glanced at one another. On Hell's side, the losses were too severe. Everybody in the celestial country started hearing about the Great War. Many strong cultivators were terrified and tried to hide. At the same time, others gathered into small groups. The strong cultivators of the continent of the Nine Clouds continued slaughtering people. A powerful strength pressured the strong cultivators from hell. Everybody in the celestial country was terrified. At that moment, Lin Feng and the others arrived in one of the hidden territories of Jalakandra Fairyland. There was nobody inside anymore. Lin Feng sat down cross-legged and started inspecting the items he had obtained in the celestial country. He had killed many strong cultivators and had obtained many things, obviously. Lin Feng spent one day sorting out everything. He was amazed at his spoils. Emperors were real heroes. They all had incredible treasures, ancient scriptures, techniques, and talismans. At that moment, Lin Feng recalled his godly awareness after having inspected a talisman. He was stunned. Among the people from the ancient demon clan, there was a technique used to make the body stronger. There was also a real demon pond, which could cleanse demon cultivators' bodies in an incredible way. They were incredibly powerful. In the talismans, there were legends and teachings from their ancestors. Maybe the ancient demon clan had the Demogorgon Seriatim Symphony. Lin Feng inspected everything and continued cultivating. He would have to reach the other side of the Milky Way battlefield someday. He had to be extremely strong at that time, but now he was still too weak. In the outside world, the war was terrifying as it continued. The members of the continent of the Nine Clouds army were extremely strong, but everybody in hell had already gathered. There was blood everywhere in the celestial country. All the strong cultivators from hell couldn't wait for the year to be over. New people from hell would arrive and avenge them. Lin Feng left the mysterious place of Jalakandra Fairyland and rose up in the air. There were corpses everywhere. He sighed, thinking of the great war that had happened. During this time, Lin Feng had already been cleansed a second time by waves of Devamara Kulpa strength. He also learned to control life and death Dao strength much better. He could carry out powerful life and death Dao attacks more easily now. I'll head back to hell. I wonder whether Officer Sherchuan is still there or not. If he's there, he'll help me inform Officer Updala, and then I'll come back to the celestial country, thought Lin Feng. Then his silhouette flickered, and he headed for the edge of the celestial country. Someone from hell. In the distance, some people noticed that Lin Feng had no imprint in his third eye. One of them waved his hands and red blood appeared. Lin Feng's blood started boiling, and he threw himself at those people. Die, said Lin Feng, releasing empty sword energies. The outsiders' faces changed drastically. Lin Feng just grunted coldly. Black death energies suddenly surrounded the outsiders as Lin Feng continued moving forwards. He had also put fire into his attack now. The flames immediately burned them alive, and their charred corpses fell down. Lin Feng continued on. Chapter 1901. The secret is out. As Lin Feng reached the periphery of the celestial country, Lin Feng realized that the battle had already reached every corner of this realm. He still saw some people with imprints in their third eye, which meant they came from the continent of the Nine Clouds. In the distance, a new silhouette appeared. Lin Feng found that he had arrived at the very edge of the celestial country. The strong cultivators of hell had gathered near the boundary. Random groups from the continent of the Nine Clouds couldn't attack. So many people gathered together. Lin Feng. At that moment, a strong cultivator from Jalakandra Fairyland flashed forwards and landed in front of Lin Feng. He said, "You came even later than us. I was meditating in seclusion in our territory. Nobody disturbed me. How's the situation?" Lin Feng asked. "Not sure. There are battles everywhere in the celestial country. It's been a tragedy for hell. But soon 1 year will have passed, and we'll have the opportunity to get our revenge. The outsiders are about to gather together, I guess, to fight against us." "I see. The next year won't be calm either. Another terrifying battle will happen," agreed Lin Feng. The other man laughed. "Not only next year, the years after it as well. Such terrifying wars can't be that short." "You're right." Lin Feng nodded. As he did, the atmosphere suddenly changed. Golden threads flowed into existence, dazzling to the eyes. The golden lights started dispersing as everyone watched. A meteor fell from the sky. A year had passed. The passages of the celestial country were going to open once again. Everybody, let's go out at the same time. Then let's tell our clans and so on. And come back with the most heroic and talented cultivators of hell within 3 days. Then, we'll need to conquer the celestial country again. Cheered someone. Everybody nodded, calling out in return. Some people flew forwards as quickly as they could. In hell at the entrance, dazzling golden lights had appeared as well. There was a big crowd there waiting, and finally, the passage was open again. However, at the same time people frowned. They were surprised. So many people. How come so many people were coming out at the same time? What's going on? The people in the crowd didn't understand. So many people coming out together at the same time was very unusual. As an incredible number of people came out, the crowd heard a voice calling out. In the celestial country, there is a great war against the cultivators from the other side of the Milky Way battlefield. I hope that everybody can come to help conquer the country again. A great war over the Milky Way battlefield? The crowd was shocked. Many of them naturally didn't understand what it meant, and asked their teachers. Many people's expressions changed drastically, and their conversations soon reached a healthy buzz. Some of the strong cultivators who had just left the celestial country stayed, while some others immediately left to go and inform their clans. Everybody, I'm sure many ministers are among you in the crowd. Please go and inform the 10 cities of hell about that. Tell them to make many strong cultivators come here to form an army. We don't have much time. We must act as soon as possible. Someone else declared extremely loudly. The passage between hell and the celestial country was only open for 3 days. They had to find extremely strong cultivators and get them to the celestial country's entrance within a very short length of time. Lin Feng rose up into the air and gazed into the distance. He saw a silhouette come up to him and smiles. It was Vice Minister Sherchuan. Lin Feng floated over to him and smiled. Minister Sherchuan, have you been guarding the area the whole time? I haven't been here for such a long time. Lin Feng, come. We're going back to the great imperial Song City, said Minister Sherchuan, smiling at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was startled. Had Vice Minister Sherchuan been waiting for him in particular? Back then, many people had gone to the celestial country along with him. Why wasn't Vice Minister Sherchuan waiting for them? Minister, asked Lin Feng. He remained motionless. Vice Minister Sherchuan turned around and asked, What's wrong? Minister Sherchuan, I hope you can tell Minister Abdullah that I want to stay here and continue practicing in the celestial country. I might never come back to the great imperial Song City. Lin Feng said to Minister Sherchuan. He wanted to go back to the continent of the 9 clouds. Even if it didn't happen within a year, he would wait and become stronger in the celestial country. He would try his luck every year. You're not coming back? Asked Vice Minister Sherchuan, surprised. But then he smiled. Lin Feng, why would you stay there? You will have many opportunities to go back there. Vice Minister Sherchuan put his hand on Lin Feng's shoulder, and Lin Feng's expression changed. He had told Vice Minister Sherchuan that he wasn't going back. He understood something wrong was going on. Minister, what's that supposed to mean? Lin Feng asked. Vice Minister Sherchuan released some strength which started flowing into Lin Feng's body. He was a great emperor. He could kill someone like Lin Feng in the blink of an eye with the power of his mind. However, Lin Feng had never thought Vice Minister Sherchuan would ever mean him harm. Lin Feng, come back with me to the great imperial Song City. Minister Abdullah wants to see you. Vice Minister Sherchuan gravely. Lin Feng pulled a long face and said, Minister, why can't you tell me the reason? When we arrive in the great imperial Song City you'll know. I didn't want things to happen this way either, said Vice Minister Sherchuan. Without another word, he dragged Lin Feng with him and left the area. Lin Feng's face turned deathly pale. What was going on? Would he be able to go back to the celestial country? Would he have to wait for a year? If he missed the next opening, he wouldn't be able to reach the continent for 2 years. He'd missed the moon group with whom he had agreed to meet within 3 years. Lin Feng saw Minister Sherchuan's solemn and respectful expression. What had happened? Minister Abdullah had asked Sherchuan to come and pick him up personally. so he understood that it was about something serious. Lin Feng thought of something. It probably had something to do with Wang Zhu's death. The secret was out. Maybe Minister Uptala was asking Lin Feng to explain his crime. Minister Sherchuan, I respect Minister Uptala. I hope you can tell me what this is about. Otherwise, I won't go back to the great imperial Song City with you, Lin Feng said calmly. Vice Minister Sherchuan's grave face looked both perturbed and pensive. Vice Minister Sherchuan didn't realize that Lin Feng had already thought of a plan. If Vice Minister Sherchuan kept forcing him to go back, then Lin Feng would risk his life and imprison him in his small world. Lin Feng, do you remember Jian Mang? Asked Minister Sherchuan. Lin Feng frowned and nodded. Of course he remembered Jian Mang, the extremely strong blind swordsman. Initially, Jian Mang also wanted to go to the celestial country. However, he didn't leave the great imperial Song City before he was kidnapped by someone, explained Minister Sherchuan. Lin Feng didn't look surprised. It matched what he thought was going on. Wang Xiao is as strong as Minister Uptala, and he's one of the descendants of great Emperor Song. Of course, he has another position, he's Wang Zhu's father. Lin Feng had already understood. Back then, he had noticed that some people were spying on him in the city. Vice Minister Sherchuan had taken him to the celestial country. So it was Jian Mang that was kidnapped. Jian Mang and you aren't really close friends. He knew why Wang Xiao captured him. Besides, Wang Xiao also knows a technique to read people's memories. Therefore, Jian Mang didn't wait for that, and told him how you had killed Wang Zhu back then. Otherwise Wang Xiao would have killed him. Now he says he will release him only if he gets you, said Minister Sherchuan. Minister Uptala doesn't want to see me just because Jian Mang is in danger, right? Lin Feng asked, feeling there was more to it. Of course not, Minister Uptala really likes you. Otherwise he wouldn't have sent me to pick you up, said Vice Minister Sherchuan sighing. The kings of the 10 Yama courts have many ministers, and there are tensions between some of them. The relationships between Great Emperor Song and his descendants are complex. You probably can imagine what I mean. You're a guest in the city, and there are tensions between Wang Xiao and Uptala. Therefore, Wang Xiao is using you to get Minister Uptala involved. Minister Uptala can leave the great imperial Song City, Lin Feng pointed out. Indeed, Minister Uptala can leave the city. Wang Xiao knows that perfectly well. Therefore, when Minister Uptala was away, he also captured Qing Qing. They knew that you had gone to the celestial country, but they didn't come to capture you themselves, because they knew that if you saw them you might just go back to the celestial country and hide there. And if Minister Uptala and I attacked them we'd certainly lose, explained Sherchuan slowly. Lin Feng remained silent for a few seconds. Minister Uptala could offend Wang Xiao and Wang Zhen because he was a minister. However, Lin Feng had killed a descendant of great Emperor Song, which was completely different. Chapter 1902. The Exchange in Hell. There were 10 main cities and 10 Yama courts. Yama City was controlled by King Yama. Just like great Emperor Song, very people had ever seen him, including his descendants. However, there were some exceptions. 2 people had just arrived in Yama City. These people were both extremely strong and had reached the top of the Hell Huangqi layer. In comparison with King Yama, they weren't strong, but they could still see King Yama. This young man and woman were extremely famous in Hell, especially that young man. Yama Hua was a descendant of King Yama. She was a princess in Yama City, a high-level Hell Emperor, and understood Dao strength. She was monstrously strong. In Yama City, everybody knew about her, and many young men wanted to marry her. However, she didn't get married to a young man from Yama City, but to someone from another clan. Many young men from Yama City were furious, but nobody dared say anything, because she had gotten married to a member of the ancient demon clan. Jizzy, the ancient demon clan was legendary, and had existed for generations. Jizzy was the strongest cultivator of his generation. But that wasn't sufficient reason to explain why King Yama received her. Jizzy had another position. He was a member of the mysterious Hell Shrine. He had become a disciple of the Hell Shrine, and had benefited a lot from it. At that moment, in the main hall of a palace, King Yama was seated upright, and looking at Yama Hua's big tummy. He smiled and said, Ordinary women are pregnant for 10 months, but your pregnancy has lasted for 3 years. The baby will probably become an incredible cultivator. Everyone heard King Yama, and they didn't think he was exaggerating. They already knew Juzi was the father, and he was an incredible cultivator. The crowd could already imagine how strong Yama Hua's baby would become. I really don't deserve so much praise, master, replied Juzi. He was wearing a black robe, and his eyes were completely black. Juzi, I just learned that the continent of the 9 clouds had invaded the celestial country. We've lost the first battle already. It's an opportunity for you, said King Yama calmly. He looked like an ordinary old man. Juzi looked at Yama Hua with love in his eyes and smiled. Our baby will be born soon. She needs me at her side. I won't leave little Hua before our baby is 3 years old, especially for a full year. Juzi sounded calm and serene, but also firm. What a romantic guy. King Yama smiled. I'm happy for you. When the baby is born, come and visit as often as you want. We will. Juzi nodded. However, at that moment he frowned. Yama Hua looked at him. He looked stupefied, and she asked, Juzi, what's wrong? Nothing. Juzi said, smiling broadly. The ancient demon clan just informed me that all the cultivators of the ancient demon clan who were in on the Milky Way battlefield have been killed. They're also asking me whether I can go to the celestial country or not. So what will you tell them? Asked Yama Hua in a low voice. I don't need to accept. I know they won't dispute me, Juzi said indifferently. He had a very high status in the ancient demon clan. In the great imperial Song City, in Uptilla's ice world, Minister Uptilla was standing at the top of an iceberg. His skin was as white as ice. Some people were in front of him, all wearing armor, troops of Uptilla. Everybody. I might be forced to leave Uptilla Hell, in which case I wouldn't be your minister anymore. The great imperial Song City will send another minister to take care of Uptilla's zone. I hope you will take care of yourselves if that happens, said Minister Uptilla calmly. Since Qing Qing had been kidnapped, and Wang Xiao and the others had threatened him, he had no reason to stay on as a minister anymore. Leaving was a logical consequence. Minister, you've been ruling over Uptilla Hell for so many years. We know that Wang Xiao is threatening you because of what happened with Lin Feng. However, if you leave, we are willing to leave with you. We can't let you down. Indeed, Minister. We want to stay with you, said many people. Minister Uptilla looked gravely solemn as he said, Everybody, it's not as simple as you think. If you want to follow me, you'll just give Wang Xiao and the others a reason to say that Uptilla Hell's peoples are traitors, and they'll destroy you all. I don't want anything to happen to you. I'm not staying in the great imperial Song City then. Many people sighed. When Minister Uptilla saw their expressions, he said, If you don't want to stay here, then wait for Vice Minister Sherchuan to come back and leave with him. Go to another city. I'm sure the great imperial Song City won't harm those who want to stay. Minister Uptilla then left and went back to his ministry, where he closed the door and waited patiently. Someone finally arrived near Minister Uptilla's office, and not someone he wished to see. It was Wang Zhen. He opened the door rudely and saw Minister Uptilla seated cross-legged in a pond. He sneered, Minister, did you capture him or not? Maybe that Lin Feng didn't want to come back to hell and stayed in the celestial country, snorted Minister Uptilla after opening his eyes. Minister, no matter how long Lin Feng stays in the celestial country, he will come back someday. And I've heard that Vice Minister Sherchuan has already captured Lin Feng. Wang Jin smiled darkly. Minister Uptilla looked surprised, but he had already expected that Lin Feng would come out. He wasn't reassured since he had sent Vice Minister Sherchuan alone to pick up Lin Feng. If I had news from Sherchuan, I would tell you, said Minister Uptilla calmly. Wang Jin sneered again. I hope you're not plotting anything dodgy. If you betray Great Emperor Song, Qing Qing will be considered a traitor too. Wang Jin turned around and left, slamming the door behind him. Minister Uptilla's eyes were glittering daggers. He looked after Wang Zhen with murder in his eyes. 3 days later, Minister Uptilla brought some people outside of the city. They arrived in a boundless mountain range with very few inhabitants. After a short time, Sherchuan and Lin Feng also arrived. Lin Feng calmly looked at Minister Uptilla and greeted him softly. Minister, It was impossible to understand what Minister Uptala thought when he saw Lin Feng. He looked at Sherchuan and said, Sherchuan, bring all of those people who wish to go to Yama City. Find Minister Yugong there. He will help you. Minister, I want to stay here, said Sherchuan. He was stunned at the command. Go. They're here already, said Minister Uptala, waving his hands. In the distance, a terrifying army appeared, led by Wang Xiao. He was holding onto a chain. Ching. Minister Uptala, you're ordering the Uptala army to leave? Doesn't that prove that you're a traitor? Shouted Wang Xiao furiously, his strength rising in challenge to the minister. After I hand Lin Feng over to you, I will take Ching away with me out of the city. If they don't want to stay, it's their problem. I won't force them to leave or to stay, but I still have to guarantee their safety. Besides, they have nothing to do with me. If you attack them, it will prove you are traitors. Minister Uptala replied scornfully. I don't care about them, they can leave or stay, sneered Wang Xiao icily. Then he looked at Lin Feng. That man had killed his son. Minister, we'll be waiting for you. Vice Minister Sherchuan knew that he couldn't afford wasting time. So he took Uptala's army away. Wang Xiao didn't mind. He wanted Lin Feng. If Minister Uptala did anything dodgy, he'd kill them all. They're gone. Give us Lin Feng now, demanded Wang Xiao icily. He wanted to show Lin Feng how cruel hell truly was. Only Lin Feng is left. Give me my daughter Ching, Wang Xiao. We can exchange at the same time. Wang Xiao agreed slowly. Minister Uptala nodded and looked at Lin Feng. Lin Feng, I, Uptala, am very sorry. Seems like I'm doomed. Lin Feng sighed as he walked forwards. Wang Xiao smiled coldly. He was surprised. He hadn't thought this would be so easy. Go, said Wang Xiao, and freed Ching, before releasing a terrifying strength which surrounded Lin Feng like a web. Chapter 1903. Difficult to escape. Lin Feng looked at Wang Xiao icily. Wang Xiao smiled coldly and looked at Minister Uptala. I wouldn't have thought that things would happen this easily. If you want to stay, you can go back to your headquarters. We are not cruel people. Inside, Wang Xiao was annoyed. He had thought that Minister Uptala would cause troubles, and that way he would have been free to kill him. His Wang Zhuo was dead. He hated Minister Uptala just for that. If Minister Uptala had paid attention, Wang Zhuo wouldn't have died. In any case, he had just captured Lin Feng. Things were far from over. Why would I go back there? I'm off. See you, said Minister Uptala calmly. Then, he departed as quickly as he could. Go. Wang Xiao looked at Lin Feng evilly and sneered icily. I will show you how cruel hell can be. Then, he waved his hands and everybody else left. However, after a short time, Wang Zhao's expression changed drastically, and he shouted extremely loudly, Stop. Everybody stopped. Wang Xiao looked at Lin Feng icily. He had just obtained some pieces of information. Apparently, Vice Minister Sherchuan and the people he had taken away had divided into two groups. Ching and a young man were leaving together, and that young man looked like Lin Feng. Wang Xiao released a terrifying energy which converged on Lin Feng's brain. But suddenly, Lin Feng disappeared right in front of him. Wang Zhao's expression changed drastically. The others were dumbfounded. How's that possible? Asked Wang Zhen. Cloning? How could Lin Feng's clone look so real, though? He wasn't nearly strong enough. Minister Uptala, I will teach you what pain is, shouted Wang Xiao furiously. Luckily, he had taken his own precautions. Lin Feng and Vice Minister Sherchuan were heading in different directions. Lin Feng had come back with Sherchuan. When they saw him, it meant it was his clone already. Actually, at that moment, Lin Feng and Ching were on a boat, and were flying quite low to be discreet. Vice Minister Sherchuan and the others were trying to draw people's attention away. Ching, I'm sorry for the troubles I caused to you and your father. I hope they didn't do anything bad to you? Lin Feng said to Ching. Ching looked at Lin Feng and smiled gently, then shook her head. They wouldn't have dared harm me before capturing you. They just prevented me from traveling. If you're safe and sound, then it's good. I hope we still have time. Lin Feng replied, staring at her beautiful white skin. At that moment, Lin Feng's expression suddenly changed. How fast? They found us. Ching's eyes flashed with fear. However, Lin Feng still looked calm. He said, Ching Ching, keep calm. They won't find us. Ching Ching nodded, but at that moment, Death Strength flew past them, and her face turned gray. What's going on? Lin Feng frowned. Why was Ching Ching turning gray? Life. Lin Feng put his hands on Ching Ching, and the Death Strength turned into life strength. However, Lin Feng progressively realized that there wasn't only death qi involved. Ching Ching's beautiful face was also distorting. Lin Feng's heart started pounding. He understood what was going on. Ching Ching was being possessed by someone who had a strange skill. Uptala, bring him back or she'll die. Ching Ching's lips said icily. Lin Feng was terrified. Ching Ching's face then became white again and she whispered, Lin Feng, let's keep going. At that moment, Lin Feng stopped the boat. There was a destructive strength in Ching Ching's body, and with what she had just said, Lin Feng wasn't reassured at all. Bastard, Lin Feng said icily. Those people were from the same city as Ching Ching, and they dared use such spells on her. Someone shouted out. It was Minister Uptala, who had established a connection with his daughter to find her easily. Ching Ching. Minister Uptala realized that Ching Ching was acting strangely, and his face turned deathly pale. Dad, I'm all right. Let's continue. Ching Ching smiled. Lin Feng looked glum and said, Minister, go back with her. She's been cursed. Lin Feng, said Ching Ching to Lin Feng. She shook her head and said, Dad, they cast a spell on me, which means that they fully intended to kill me. If we go back, they'll kill me as well. Minister Uptala was devastated when he saw Ching Ching's smile. How could he let his daughter die? Minister, I can go back with you if it's my destiny, Lin Feng said. He was furious and releasing death qi. Minister Uptala looked at Lin Feng guiltily and said, Lin Feng, you're right. We must accept our fate. I can guarantee you something. Even if we're doomed, you will die after me. Minister. Lin Feng was stunned. The minister was a celestial emperor, and surprisingly he was ready to die. I wouldn't have thought that the great imperial Song City would be such a place. Ching Ching, I'm sorry, my daughter, said Minister Uptala, caressing her face in remorse. Ching Ching smiled. Dad, I'm worthless. I don't want you to give up. Life, Lin Feng said. At the same time, Minister Uptala stretched out his hands and embraced Ching Ching. Little girl, we have to try. How could I let you die? Said Minister Uptala gently. He would never let his daughter die for him. Let's go, said Minister Uptala, waving his hands. The three of them turned around. Wang Xiao and the others were naturally going to wait back there. Wang Xiao smiled coldly when he saw that Uptala was coming back. Minister Uptala is a traitor. He's protecting the one who killed my son. Very good, said Wang Xiao icily. Minister Uptala was furious and said, Wang Xiao, I've already brought Lin Feng back. You better release my daughter, she has nothing to do with that. First show me that this is the real Lin Feng. Jian Mang, go, ordered Wang Xiao icily. A blind man came out of the crowd, checking whether I'm real or not. Lin Feng suddenly rose up into the air. His eyes were all black and contained life and death strength. Die, shouted Lin Feng explosively. Whistling sounds cut the air, and Jian Mang frowned. A death sword was shooting towards him. Dazzling lights streaked across the sky and collided with Lin Feng's invisible sword. Lin Feng jumped and released destructive strength, which made space itself bend violently. Dad, Lin Feng is very strong and talented, Ching Ching told Minister Uptala. She was stunned to see that Lin Feng controlled Dao strength. Jian Mang released his own sword energies. They cut through the black water in the air in straight waves. He pierced through the black water and threw himself at Lin Feng. Light cosmic energy. His sword moves as fast as light. He's so fast, Lin Feng thought. Jian Mang landed in front of Lin Feng, and his sword energies shot out at Lin Feng. Lin Feng released Kulpa sword energies and didn't move back a single inch. He used his Nihility sword and attacked Jian Mang. A blinding light stabbed in the direction of Lin Feng's eyes. Jian Mang suddenly opened his eyes, and brilliant lights emerged from them. Lin Feng couldn't open his eyes in the face of such a powerful burst of light. Lacerate, shouted Jian Mang furiously. The lights thrust at Lin Feng's eyes. They're both insane. Jian Mang's eyes. Those watching were stupefied and shaken. Those two people were incredibly strong. Die! Shouted Wang Zhen, and he jumped forwards, releasing death qi. Oppressive energies surrounded Lin Feng and Jian Mang. Freeze! Shouted Minister Uptala. In a flash, the atmosphere around them started freezing, including Lin Feng and Jian Mang's bodies. Minister Uptala stretched out his hands and took Jian Mang and Lin Feng out of the ice. You guys are not enemies and you are both extremely strong. You don't need to fight to death. Jian Mang, you probably understand that as well, said Minister Uptala. Jian Mang's eyes returned to normal again, losing the light within. They were just empty white, the sign of his blindness. Chapter 1904. A lotus. Wang Zhen waved and his army moved. They surrounded Minister Uptala and the others. Minister Uptala sighed and said, "Let Lin Feng and my daughter off, and I'll be your servant forever." "Dream on, Minister," spat Wang Xiao, smiling coldly. "My son was the most precious thing to me in life. Lin Feng killed him. You think I would let him off? You're ridiculous." Lin Feng looked furious. But then Minister Uptala said, "You want all of us to die here then?" "Indeed. Now, Minister Uptala, I will show you what it feels like to lose your children," said Wang Xiao icily. He suddenly turned around and looked at Qing Qing as some qi surrounded her. Her white arms turned black, followed by her face. Qing Qing, Lin Feng, and Minister Uptala turned around and looked at Qing Qing. Minister Uptala started crying. "Dad, don't cry. Promise me that you'll live on, and don't stay here, leave," smiled Qing Qing sadly. She reached out and wiped her father's tears away. She was far more worried about her father than herself. "It's my fault." Death qi appeared in Lin Feng's eyes, but life qi started flowing throughout Qing Qing's body. He could eliminate the death qi in her body, but he couldn't destroy the destructive strength. "Lin Feng, it has nothing to do with you. I bear the consequences for my actions. You are extremely talented. You can't die." Qing Qing smiled. Then, she looked at Minister Uptala and said, "Dad, freeze me, at least I won't die ugly." "All right." Minister Uptala released an ice-cold energy, which surrounded his daughter. She slowly froze, and the destructive energy did as well. Qing Qing was still smiling within like a statue. At that moment, Lin Feng released a special qi, and Qing Qing disappeared from where she was. Minister Uptala looked at Lin Feng strangely. "Die!" A terrifying qi dashed to the skies. A punch appeared. An immortal hell river appeared and moved towards Minister Uptala. At the same time, Jian Mang and Lin Feng sensed a terrifying death strength surround them. Their willpower was being corroded. Lin Feng released life stamps. He released chilling death energy and glanced at Jian Mang, wondering whether to save him or let him die. Jian Mang suddenly opened his eyes, now filled with rare light intent. Jian Mang had always hidden some of his special powers. If Wang Xiao hadn't tried to kill him a moment before, he would have continued hiding his special powers. Jian Mang had no reason to hide his powers, unless Wang Xiao was controlling him. "So you should go into a cage," Lin Feng said. A second later, Jian Mang disappeared. The crowd frowned. Did Lin Feng have a special treasure? He could even store away people who were alive. At this moment, Lin Feng didn't mind revealing his trump cards anymore. He couldn't die here. He didn't want to die. He wanted to go back to the continent of the 9 clouds. Now, showing what he was capable of didn't matter much anymore. He should have made Qing Qing go to his small world much sooner. Minister Uptala took out a lotus and said to Lin Feng, "Go inside." Lin Feng jumped onto the lotus, which closed itself around him and wrapped him up. At the same time, a terrifying immortal strength moved towards Minister Uptala, carving fissures in space. A terrifying fire started burning on Minister Uptala's body. A terrifying qi rose to the skies and protected the lotus around Lin Feng. Minister Uptala looked extremely determined. He had said it. Even if they both died, he would be the first one to die. The fire continued burning Minister Uptala, growing rapidly more intense. His expression changed drastically. Nobody knew better than he how powerful the path of the lotus was. At that moment, Minister Uptala was using his own soul for the benefits of his path. He was changing his path. "Wang Zhen, you'll be the first one to die," said Minister Uptala icily. People realized that the situation was extremely dangerous. Minister Uptala was a great emperor. Wang Jun looked terrified. There was a huge difference between him and Uptala. Minister Uptala was going crazy. Suddenly, the earth started giving birth to blue Uptala lotuses, appearing one after another. Minister Uptala's full strength existed in those lotuses. Dazzling lights bloomed everywhere, and a gigantic lotus appeared and moved towards Wang Jun. Wang Xiao was initially standing next to Wang Jun, but at that moment he retreated, abandoning Wang Jun. Fighting against Minister Uptala was useless at this moment. He was too dangerous. "Break!" shouted Wang Jun furiously. He released energies and pulses and broke Uptala's ice energies first. An ocean of death chi appeared in the space and moved towards the blue Uptala lotus. However, at that moment, the blue Uptala lotus expanded greatly in size and enveloped all the death chi, and Wang Jun with it. "No!" Wang Jun screamed, his soul fleeing his body. However, the blue Uptala lotus became even larger and enveloped his soul as well. Some strong cultivators who weren't far enough from Wang Jun didn't have time to escape and were absorbed by the blue Uptala lotus as well. The blue Uptala lotus petals then closed. Destructive strength saturated its interior, and Minister Uptala's blue Uptala lotus broke apart into 1,000,000 lotuses. Wang Jun and all the others had disappeared. The ice-cold hellfire burning on Minister Uptala's body was getting stronger. There were many great emperors in the crowd, but they all dispersed, not daring to get close to Minister Uptala. At that moment, Minister Uptala was risking his life, but they didn't want to risk their own lives against him. That was Wang Zhao's responsibility, who wanted to risk their life for him. "You sacrificed your body for the Tao, you want to die," sneered Wang Xiao icily. He had never thought Minister Uptala would be this crazy. Boom! Minister Uptala suddenly turned around, and an ocean of strength moved towards Wang Xiao at the same time Minister Uptala charged him. Millions of lotuses appeared, each lotus a terrifying killing weapon. Wang Xiao waved his hands, and a lade of red fire appeared before him, moving to block the lotuses. Minister Uptala continued charging, not caring at all about its terrifying strength. Everybody was shaken, fully able to see that Minister Uptala didn't care about dying anymore. He had killed Wang Jun first, and now he wanted to kill Wang Xiao. "Umph!" Wang Xiao snorted coldly. He waved his hands and a curtain appeared between them. It was a silver web, looking extremely sharp, and could seemingly cut apart people's bodies and souls. However, Wang Zhao's smile disappeared instantly. Minister Uptala charged right through the silver web, getting cut, but it was as if he hadn't sensed anything. Minister Uptala landed in front of Wang Xiao, bearing one blue Uptala lotus in his hand, one blue Uptala lotus of the earth and sky. He wanted to plant it in Wang Zhao's body. Wang Zhao's expression changed drastically. He retreated instinctively, while releasing terrifying energies. Minister Uptala didn't stop, however, ignoring everything as he put the blue Uptala lotus on Wang Zhao's body. A destructive death strength burst out. "No!" Wang Zhao's soul turned into a cloud and dispersed, his physical body falling limply down from the sky. A few strong cultivators landed in front of the corpse and stared at Minister Uptala icily. Minister Uptala was insane. He had killed Wang Zhao's physical body. "Someone will kill you sooner or later." Minister Uptala sighed, as his body then slowly turned into a blue Uptala lotus. He brought Lin Feng's blue Uptala lotus along with him, as a vortex appeared amid dazzling golden lights, before disappearing into the ground. The crowd was astonished and shaken by the sight. Minister Uptala had surprisingly decided to turn into one of the earth and sky's blue Uptala lotuses. Chapter 1905. Turning into a blue Uptala lotus in hell. A blue Uptala lotus was surrounded by golden lights as it moved along. When people saw it, it sometimes just disappeared before their eyes. Many people sighed. What kind of incredible spell was that? The blue Uptala lotus drifted through the air for 2 days. Finally, it landed in the middle of an ocean, many other lotuses appearing around it. In a short time, the ocean was covered with blue Uptala lotuses, a special and mysterious chi surrounding them. One of the blue Uptala lotuses, larger and brighter than the rest, opened itself up. After that, Another blue Uptila lotus opened itself, and a young man appeared inside. At that moment, he was surrounded by an ice-cold chi, as well as death chi. The young man's eyes were closed. A first layer of the lotus broke, and then a second. Shining lights penetrated into his body. The lotus had borne Lin Feng far away, and now it was lending him strength. The lotus was surrounded by strange lights. All sorts of strength were changing. The will of that blue Uptila lotus surrounded all the energies. The young man's silhouette flickered. He had already woken up. Of course, he didn't even need to open his eyes in such circumstances. He just had to sense the incredible energies around him. Everything was natural and peaceful. A strong wind was blowing and causing gigantic waves to form. However, in that ocean, there was a great black demon mount, gigantic, and filled with an incredible demonic chi. Many mysterious people were waiting atop of it. At that moment on the demon mount, a strong cultivator suddenly opened his eyes. He suddenly stood up and left his meditations. After a short time, he arrived in front of an ancient demon sacrificial altar and jumped atop it. There was a demon pond next to the altar, all black and containing demonic strength. "Have you sensed the strange chi of the ancient demon clan?" asked the person who had just arrived. From inside the demon pond, many people opened their eyes, which were all fully black. They had sensed a demon imprint, but it was very far away. Only strong cultivators from the ancient demon clan could wield such imprints. "I sensed it. That person must be quite strong. A medium-level Hell Emperor or a high-level Hell Emperor at least," replied someone. "Indeed. Have any of you used the ancient demon imprint?" The crowd remained silent for a few seconds. They hadn't planted any ancient demon imprint on anyone. "Who is willing to go and bring him back?" asked the strong cultivator on the sacrificial altar calmly. A few people who were in the demon pond rose up into the air. "We'll go." "All right, you three can go. There won't be any problem if you stay together," agreed the strong cultivator on the altar. Then, he sat down cross-legged and said, "Remember, if anything goes wrong, come back. We've lost enough people on the Milky Way battlefield. We can't afford to lose any more people of the same generation." "We understand," said the three confirmed, before leaving the small island. Lin Feng was still on the blue Uptila lotus. After a short time he slowly opened his eyes. He was surrounded by an incredible melange of energies. Cosmic energies floated in the air, death, life, earth and empty space cosmic energies. "I'm bathing in Tao strength. My will is being cleansed. I can now borrow Tao strength," thought Lin Feng solemnly. He obviously couldn't understand the blue Uptila lotus intent easily, but he was bathing in it and could borrow it. "Minister, are you still alive?" Lin Feng was stupefied. A lotus was slowly opening. The great emperor appeared within its petals. If Minister Uptila hadn't transformed, they would have died. Lin Feng released a special chi, transferring to his small world. Jian Mang was seated cross-legged there, his eyes closed. Lin Feng watched Jian Mang coldly. "I know that you're not blind. Why do you continue pretending?" Lin Feng asked coldly. "I am blind. What you saw weren't my eyes but my path," Jian Mang said calmly. After being imprisoned, he had tried to leave this place using strength, but had failed. He couldn't destroy this small world with his strength. He knew he'd need much time to break free, so he had decided to stay there and practice, not wanting to waste time. "You may think I betrayed you. However, I had already been captured, and they didn't care about my explanations. If you had killed me to keep me silent back then, this wouldn't have happened. Of course back then, maybe you couldn't have killed me. I did not think that you would become so much stronger in the celestial country. Unfortunately, I couldn't come with you before I was kidnapped. And now I won't have the opportunity either," sighed Jian Mang. Lin Feng knew that Jian Mang wasn't lying. He didn't talk much, but when he talked, he usually spoke the truth. "I was unlucky from birth. I was born blind. However, I refused to complain. I decided to become strong. I studied the rare light strength. As a blind person, understanding light cosmic energy was extremely useful. I also studied speed strength. That's my path. My cultivation replaced my sight. My cultivation is like my eyes. I won't fight against you here though," continued Jian Mang. He inherently sounded cold and detached, and he always remained calm, Maybe because he understood light energy. Such people were rare. Lin Feng didn't say anything else. He took Qing Qing, who was still frozen, away. He took her home to Shuiyu. Even here inside his spirit, Lin Feng could still sense the special power of the blue Uptala lotus. An incredible Tao strength was flowing throughout his body. Outside in the real world, Lin Feng raised his head and gazed into the distance. He saw 3 people getting closer. Those 3 people were wearing black robes and were surrounded by an unfathomable and enigmatic demon qi. They looked like extremely strong demon cultivators. The 3 people paused after arriving close to him and examined Lin Feng calmly. When they saw the blue Uptala lotus and its mysterious qi, they were surprised. "Come with us," one of them ordered Lin Feng coldly. A demon cultivator from the ancient demon clan had planted an ancient demon imprint in his body, and they wanted to take him back to the ancient demon clan. Lin Feng looked back at them emotionlessly, his eyes full of death intent. "Who are you?" Lin Feng asked grimly. "Ancient demon clan," replied the speaker icily. Then, he dropped towards Lin Feng and released a suffocating aura of energy. Lin Feng slowly rose up into the air to meet him. Death's strength filled the air, embodied as seals of energy, racing towards the newcomer's eyes. The speaker sensed the terrifying energies first, as his face turned gray. A ebony black kulpa sword streaked across the sky with a whistle of speed, and he suddenly collapsed and fell from the sky, his body crashing onto the blue Uptala lotus. Lin Feng then flashed towards the other 2 cultivators. Those people grimaced and retreated quickly. However, Lin Feng wasn't going to let them off. A black river surrounded them. Their faces turned deathly pale when they realized that it was Tao strength. One of them took out a talisman, which immediately exploded. Black water started flowing, and one of the 2 fell into it. A deadly sword then shot towards him. The other one wanted to escape, but he sensed the terrifying sword energy move towards him. He could only wail in terror as he died. Chapter 1906. Ancient Demon Clan's Great Emperor Lin Feng's eyes were all black. Uptala had turned into a blue Uptala lotus, and had taken him so far. They were probably a great distance from the great imperial Song City already. Maybe the ancient demon clan wasn't far from his present location? Lin Feng picked up the loot, before landing again, on the blue Uptala lotus. He looked grave and solemn as the blue Uptala lotus disappeared. The small world of his spirit was improving as Lin Feng became stronger. He had already started creating new lands around Shuiyu. The only thing was that nobody lived there yet. Lin Feng came back with a blue Uptala lotus, arriving at the foot of the Heavenly Grace ancient tree. "Minister, this tree is similar to your path. I will plant your lotus here," Lin Feng said hoarsely. He put the lotus he was holding down into the soil at the foot of the Heavenly Grace ancient tree. Instantly, many small other lotuses appeared, a special energy surrounding them. "I've heard about the transforming teachings, and about marks of the path. The minister has turned into a blue Uptala lotus. That lotus is a mark of the path. In the future, Minister Uptala will also be illuminated by this beautiful tree, as will the people of Shuiyu," whispered Lin Feng. He slowly walked away before raising his head. He saw Feifei and Xiaoya. "Brother, that lotus." Xiaoya's eyes twinkled with delight when she saw the blue Uptala lotus. "An elder grows lotuses. Its Tao determination will reach every corner of Shuiyu. In the future, it'll be helpful for you. You'll be able to study Tao intent," Lin Feng said with a smile. Xiaoya walked up to Lin Feng and hugged him with a smile. "You're becoming stronger and stronger. Xiaoya, we'll go and look for your grandfather soon," Lin Feng said, hugging Xiaoya back. Even though Xiaoya was now slender and elegant, Lin Feng still thought of her as a little girl and not as a woman. "Lin Feng, I'll get you some drinks and food," offered Lu Fei, also smiling in welcome at Lin Feng. Lin Feng shook his head. "Feifei, I have things to do. I'll come back when I have time." "All right," said Lu Fei with a nod. Lin Feng came back regularly now. They were already happy to be able to see him more than before. When the ancient demon clansman broke the talisman, the strong cultivator on the sacrificial altar suddenly turned furious. Gigantic waves appeared in the demon pond. The cultivators who were in the water looked up at the strong cultivator on the altar, who stood up and said, "They died. I really want to see who dares kill people of the ancient demon clan." The cultivator turned into a black light beam, vanishing towards the horizon. Many of the strong cultivators rose up into the air. Lin Feng was actually heading in the opposite direction of the ancient demon clan, but he sensed some demon qi moving towards him. That qi was more powerful than imperial qi. It was great imperial qi. He turned around and saw demon qi pulsing out behind him. He was astonished. A dazzling sun appeared in his hand and streaked across the sky. At the same time, Lin Feng released fire energy to follow the sun disk. He had several great imperial weapons, but he mainly used those he had modified already. Boom boom! The earth and sky shook violently. A gigantic wave of demon energies rolled towards him. Lin Feng couldn't even see it all clearly. 8 suns suddenly appeared and collided with the demon wave, the force of their meeting hurling Lin Feng away violently. A gigantic hand appeared in front of him. "Explode!" shouted Lin Feng extremely loudly. The 8 sun discs moved towards the cage-like hand and attacked it. However, the demon light beam behind it continued moving towards him. Lin Feng was driven backwards once again and coughed up blood. He had the sensation his body was going to explode. Finally, Lin Feng saw a silhouette of someone in black clothes. This person was much stronger than those who had attacked him before. Lin Feng had inspected the corpse's precious items and had realized that those people had impressive physical skills. Most of them studied 2 ancient books. One of them was to modify one's physical form and develop a Devamara body, which allowed them to control demon energies better. Because that skill was too powerful, sometimes it made people's veins explode and killed them. Thus, many of them practiced that skill in a demon pond. It helped them survive the process. Lin Feng had realized that their strength rose to the skies when he fought against them. They were extremely brutal and aggressive. And now he was facing a great emperor. This guy was terrifyingly strong. "My people died on the Milky Way battlefield. Does that have anything to do with you?" asked the strong cultivator, watching Lin Feng icily. He looked like a demon king as he floated there, arrogant and imperious. Lin Feng's eyes glittered. An ebony black demonic hand appeared in his grasp. Its strength rose to the skies and the air shook. The strong cultivator from the ancient demon clan was surprised at Lin Feng's reply. That demon hand was from a very strong cultivator of the ancient demon clan. The strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan obtained those hands and legs to assist them in their cultivation. They were precious treasures. Those items should have been in Zhu Xiao's hands. But now this outsider had them? It meant that Zhu Xiao had died before Lin Feng. "I killed them all." A boat appeared under Lin Feng's feet and started humming with power. He suddenly shot away. "You think you're leaving?" the great emperor hissed icily. He waved his hands, and energies rolled in waves towards Lin Feng. Ahead of Lin Feng, demon stones appeared and rained down from the sky. His boat wouldn't be able to move forwards. 5 fingers as heavy as mountains were falling towards him. Lin Feng took a deep breath. At least this person wasn't using Dao strength, he was just using strength. As long as that person didn't understand Dao energy, there was hope. Lin Feng waved his left hand, and a terrifying hand imprint slammed out. Lin Feng didn't flinch. His boat charged straight towards the great emperor of the ancient demon clan. His 8 sun discs were dazzling and pressing down on the great emperor. The great emperor released demon qi, and more demon mountains appeared, moving towards the sun discs. Explosions rang out loudly. "Die!" Lin Feng's eyes were filled with towering death strength. Hand imprints filled the air. At the same time, death swords cut the wind. Lin Feng looked like he had gone berserk. "Death Dao!" The demon cultivator's eyes went wide. His soul strength turned into an ancient demon, as indestructible as a mountain. The boat suddenly rose up into the air. Lin Feng continued filling the air with terrifying demon hands. As he rose up into the air, his left arm cracked. It was like all his bones were about to be crushed. What a terrifying strength, thought Lin Feng. If he hadn't had 2 great imperial weapons, he would have died already. And this great emperor hadn't understood Dao's strength yet. The difference between great emperors and medium-level emperors was astonishing. Lin Feng couldn't even make his enemy's soul shake. At that moment, a new group of people appeared in the distance. Lin Feng frowned. Blinding lights appeared, and his boat moved towards the people who were arriving. "Come back!" shouted the great emperor of the ancient demon clan when he saw Lin Feng move. He knew how terrifying Lin Feng was. These young people couldn't do much against him. Maybe someone like Wuxia could compete with him. But surprisingly, Wuxia had been killed too. Chapter 1907. Hostage. When the young man moved towards the cultivators who were arriving, the great emperor was petrified. They saw Lin Feng come towards them on his boat, his eyes filled with death chi. Lights emerged from his eyes. A gigantic hand moved towards them, bearing a pressure as if it weighed millions of tons. Thunder rolled, and one of the younger cultivators immediately exploded. Lin Feng was extremely fast on his boat, arriving near them in the blink of an eye. A black energy moved towards them, and some silhouettes disappeared inside it. "Asshole!" shouted the great emperor behind Lin Feng explosively. He released his soul strength, shooting it towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked emotionless, his eyes all black and cold. He threw himself at the two remaining young people, and death lights filled the air as he released Culpa strength. The two people were terrified. They were strong young people from the ancient demon clan. They were already high-level hell emperors. But Lin Feng was too frightening. Some subtle resonating sounds spread out in the air, terrifying the two younger cultivators further. Lin Feng's understanding of Dao strength was improving at the speed of light, being wielded ever more freely. However, a terrifying oppressive strength appeared around Lin Feng before he could kill them. He turned around as his soul shook violently. The strength of a great emperor was astonishing, much stronger than Lin Feng. A hand struck out towards him. At the same time, a sun appeared to counter it. Lin Feng was still on his boat and moved away very quickly. Even with great imperial weapons, he couldn't compete with a great emperor. Now that he had the imprint of the ancient demon clan in his body, he couldn't escape from them either. He felt a little bit desperate, but he was still determined to fight as hard as he could. At that moment, two people appeared in front of him above the gigantic waves of the sea, a young man and a woman. They were the married couple, Yamahua and Juzi, on their way back from Yama City. At that moment, Juzi looked at those two black eyes, and both of them sped towards Lin Feng. A member of the ancient demon clan was also chasing this person. An ancient demon imprint? Juzi glanced over Lin Feng and said to the woman, "Hua, you go back." "All right," Yamahua agreed. Juzi flashed forwards and blocked Lin Feng. He looked invincible, as if nobody could defeat him. Lin Feng frowned as he paused before Juzi. Juzi looked extremely strong. However, Lin Feng had no choice. He raised his left hand and punched out. A gigantic demon hand appeared. Juzi flickered forwards. More punches thundered out to counter Lin Feng's. His punches destroyed the energies and moved towards Lin Feng. This strength, Lin Feng trembled. Lin Feng didn't understand. This guy was a high-level hell emperor, but he seemed stronger than the great emperor chasing him. Subbursts flared, however, his enemy destroyed them instantly. They were already close to one another. Invisible sword energies whistled as Lin Feng saw terrifying demon energies emerge from his opponent's body. A gigantic hand appeared and moved towards Lin Feng, space bending around it. Lin Feng's attack turned gray and broke apart. He immediately released life energy to flow throughout his body. Lin Feng's face turned deathly pale as he stared at Juzi. He realized how strong Juzi was. He hadn't thought that the ancient demon clan would have such terrifying cultivators. Juzi was stronger than Jichong. He was even stronger than the great emperor, who was chasing him. If Lin Feng had known Juzi's position or his reputation in Yama City, he wouldn't have been surprised. In hell, it was difficult to find more than 5 people of the same generation who could compete with him. Behind him, chi pulsed and grew. Lin Feng didn't dare fight further. He moved in another direction, but Juzi chased him and released demon strength to pound him and his boat. If Lin Feng hadn't been releasing life strength the whole time, he would have been badly injured or even died. Juzi stared at Lin Feng proudly. Nobody had ever escaped from him in hell. Even great imperial weapons were useless against him. What kind of Tao strength is that? Lin Feng was astonished and felt great pressure. Jizzy, the great emperor of the ancient demon clan, finally arrived. He was behind Lin Feng, and Jizzy was in front of him. They didn't hurry to attack Lin Feng. He nodded at Jizzy and said, "How was your trip to the city?" "It was good. King Yama and I talked about cultivation. He's very nice. But since Hua is pregnant, we couldn't spend too much time there," Jizzy replied calmly. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. King Yama? This guy had met one of the 10 Yama court's kings. King Yama? Haha, your baby will become insanely strong someday. The shrine King Yama and the ancient demon clan will raise your child together. He will become terrifyingly strong, laughed the great emperor. Then, he looked at Lin Feng icily and said, "This guy killed many young cultivators of the ancient demon clan. He has killed so many of them that a whole generation has almost entirely disappeared. I'll use him as a ghost then," Jizzy declared calmly. "All right, do whatever you wish with him," said the great emperor slowly. They both looked at Lin Feng icily. Lin Feng looked emotionless. He took out his sun disk and demon hand and threw them out. The great emperor was startled, but he still caught the 2 items. He looked amused. "I'll come with you to the ancient demon clan," Lin Feng said coldly, and withdrew his chi. The great emperor was amused as he smiled. "Great, give me your boat and let's go." Lin Feng threw his boat at the great emperor and started flying. Jizzy and the great emperor stayed behind him, so he wouldn't be able to escape. Without the boat and the great imperial weapons, they could easily kill him. But to use him as a ghost, they couldn't kill him or cripple his cultivation. Lin Feng had killed so many strong cultivators from the ancient demon clan. He knew what it meant to be used as a ghost by them. They needed extremely strong cultivators if they wanted to use them as ghosts. The 3 of them quickly arrived in front of a demon island. It looked like a gigantic demon stone. The chi inside was mysterious. Yama Hua was standing on a gigantic stone there, looking extremely beautiful as she waited for her husband. At that moment, Lin Feng suddenly took out a talisman. It contained a strange chi. Jizzy frowned. Then he heard a strange sound. Lin Feng broke the talisman and disappeared. He threw himself at Yama Hua. "You want to die?" shouted Jizzy explosively. His voice made Lin Feng shake violently. However, he didn't attack. He dashed ahead. But his wife was there too, near to Lin Feng. However, Jizzy wasn't worried about his wife. Yama Hua was a proud woman, and even though she was pregnant, Lin Feng probably couldn't defeat her easily. But this time, Jizzy made a mistake. Indeed, Yama Hua was extremely strong. She released her soul strength, and Lin Feng sensed how terrifying her power was. At the same time, she released terrifying Tao strength. However, she failed to stop him. Some strange chi appeared, and she disappeared. Jizzy was astonished and furious. He didn't dare attack Lin Feng anymore. Lin Feng could have put Jizzy in his small world, but he was too strong. He could have caused trouble in his small world. When he saw Yama Hua there, however, he didn't hesitate. "You would dare attack a pregnant woman?" A terrifying chi emerged in the air. Jizzy's instant fury made him look exactly like a raging demon. In return, Lin Feng's eyes were filled with death. He said to Jizzy, "A great emperor, a high-level emperor, and all sorts of strong cultivators from the ancient demon clan tried to kill me, and now hope they can make me turn into a ghost, you fool. If I die, your wife will die too." Chapter 1908. Devamara Body Technique. Jizzy's face twisted into a terrible grimace. He had fought against Lin Feng, and knew how strong he was. With his great imperial weapons, Lin Feng was extremely dangerous. He even understood Tao strength. However, how come he was strong enough to capture his wife? Even if she was pregnant, she was extremely strong, and was a descendant of one of the 10 Yama court's kings. Jizzy didn't understand. Yama Hua was definitely strong. He couldn't know that Lin Feng had a small world in his spirit. Even Jizzy couldn't escape from Lin Feng's small world. The saddest thing for Jizzy was that he didn't know where his wife was. "Release my wife and I'll let you go," Jizzy demanded icily. His wife was bearing their child. He couldn't let her die, no matter what. Lin Feng's eyes were all black and piercingly cold, filled with a thick death chi. When I die, your wife will die too. Therefore, you better ensure that I'm safe at all times. Lin Feng answered evenly. Then, he turned around and surprisingly headed towards the ancient demon clan. Juzi and the great emperor were astonished and gaped after him. Some strong cultivators from the ancient demon clan appeared, strong qi on display. However, at that moment, Lin Feng continued walking as if nobody were there. "Nobody can touch him!" shouted a voice explosively. The strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan looked at Lin Feng icily, as if they understood what was going. Nothing could happen to Yama Hua, especially now that she was pregnant. Lin Feng continued walking. Finally, he arrived at the depths of the ancient demon clan and saw an altar. There was a gigantic demon pond in front of the altar. Many young men were bathing in it. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered. A young man suddenly stood up, but not in time. Lin Feng released a terrifying qi and waved his hand. Instantly, black water started flowing, and that young man drowned inside it and died. "Bastard!" shouted someone explosively. Lin Feng's soul shook violently. A stronger cultivator appeared above the altar, looking furious. "If you try and touch me, I'll kill her," Lin Feng said coldly. Nobody dared touch him. Juzi rushed over and demanded, "Release my wife. I promise nobody will touch you. We'll let you leave, safe and sound. If anything happens to my wife, I will kill you, no matter what." Juzi swore furiously. The demon pond started churning from his agitation. Lin Feng looked back at Juzi icily, his eyes expressionless. "I also have something to say. Everybody piss off and nobody can disturb me. Otherwise I'll kill her. If you do that, I won't kill her. I will go back to the celestial country, and before going there, I'll release your wife. That way, even if the strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan want to kill me, they won't have the occasion to. I don't need you to promise me anything that way either," Lin Feng said icily. Juzi was going crazy. His demon energies exploded wildly around him. "All right, as you wish," Juzi said, then he snarled. "If my wife doesn't feel well or is injured, I'll kill you. Now you guys move away." People in the pond looked unhappy, glancing at Lin Feng as they hurriedly left. They all looked at Juzi, but he couldn't do anything. The more Juzi seemed to care, the more Lin Feng pushed his limits. Juzi withdrew as well. He wasn't confident, but he couldn't take risks. He had no choice. Lin Feng had his wife, who was pregnant with their child. After the crowd left, Lin Feng looked calm and serene. After a few minutes, he said, "If anyone continues spying on me, I may take back what I've just said." An eerie silence took over. The clan was definitely furious. Lin Feng had killed so many of their people, but they had no choice. Now Lin Feng was now bathing happily in the demon pond. After that, the atmosphere stayed very calm. Lin Feng was seated cross-legged in the demon pond, and enjoying the demon's strength there, becoming stronger. Nobody knew what he was really doing. Today in the demon pond, it was like a beast was shouting with pain. At this moment, only Lin Feng's head was showing at the surface. His silhouette was distorted, his face ferocious. Demon lights twinkled around him, exploding constantly. His bones were crackling and rupturing. People who had never tried to study the Devamara body skill couldn't understand how painful it was. The whole body had to break to become a Devamara body. "Arg!" Lin Feng screamed. He roared like an animal in pain. Many people in the ancient demon clan didn't understand, especially the great emperor, who had chased Lin Feng. He knew what Lin Feng was doing. He was studying their technique, the Devamara body technique. Ordinary people couldn't practice that ancient and mysterious technique. There were too many criteria. People had to be incredibly strong physically, and their blood strength had to be powerful too. They also had to understand life and death qi before they could study that mysterious technique. Besides, it was also a technique they practiced over many years. They even started learning the basics when they were children to be able to understand it when they were adults. They also needed the help of the mysterious demon pond. With all those criteria, not many people had ever understood the full extent of that mysterious book. Who would have thought that someone would kill Wuxia, and that his murderer fulfilled all the requirements to have a Devamara body? For the ancient demon clan, it was a humiliation. They hadn't had such a problem in tens of thousands of years. Even though Lin Feng had been prepared, the pain was still unbearable, especially during the first minutes. He had never suffered so much. He roared again. The demon pond was boiling around him, and a mysterious strength rose up into the air. That demon pond had been created by the ancient demon clan's ancestor. The demon pond Lin Feng had seen in the celestial country had been made with samples of this one. A mysterious demon strength started flowing throughout Lin Feng's body. He was recovering, but he was still in pain. It felt like he had been born again. He clenched his fists and loud crackling sounds spread out. He had the sensation that he had an endless reserve of strength in his body now. Lin Feng suddenly moved, smiling indifferently and standing up. Devamara Culpa strength glittered around him. It was the third wave of Devamara Culpa strength to cleanse his body, since he had become a medium-level emperor. Just like the first 2 times, the waves of Culpa strength bombarded his physical body 6 times, then his soul 3 times. However, this time, they were even scarier than the previous time. The threads of energies also contained some terrifying explosive energies. Even before seeing the Devamara Culpa strength, the demon clan wanted to capture Lin Feng and steal his skills, but they could only look on powerlessly. Chapter 1909. Going back to the celestial country, after understanding the Devamara body, Lin Feng felt alive again. However, he didn't leave the demon pond. He understood why the strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan loved this place. Especially after having obtained a Devamara body, they could absorb the energies of the demon pond far more easily. Time passed again. In the pond, a new illusionary body, which looked the same as Lin Feng, appeared. Lin Feng opened his all-black eyes and looked at his clone. He could already understand the basics of the 3 lives scriptures. It meant that he would have no problem fully understanding them in the future. At that moment, the Lin Feng clone who was practicing cultivation in a mysterious room in Champion University also opened his eyes, and dangerous lights filled the air. The Lin Feng illusion went back into his body and disappeared. Lin Feng closed his eyes again and dove into the demon pond. Jizzy was getting impatient as he sat there cross-legged on a gigantic stone. He gazed into the distance and looked at the demon pond. He couldn't hold it in anymore. The situation was having an impact on his cultivation. He could only hope that Lin Feng would honor his promise and wouldn't kill his wife. Jizzy was furious when he thought that someone could kill his wife on a whim. "Jizzy!" called out someone at that moment, and a silhouette came over to him, landing before Jizzy. He was wearing black clothes and was surrounded by black demonic intent. "Ancestor," Jizzy greeted him. The silhouette's demon intent dispersed. He looked clean and young, no older than Jizzy, but he was much, much older. "Jizzy, if you want, I'll go and kill him," said the ancestor. Jizzy knew that it was easy for his ancestor to kill a cultivator of the Huangqi layer. But the problem was he didn't want to take that risk. If they killed Lin Feng, his wife might really die along with him. He would feel guilty for his entire life if that happened. "Ancestor, I'll take care of him," Jizzy said. The man remained silent for a few seconds before softly saying to Jizzy, "All right. He can't escape anyway, we're in hell. I'll let you deal with him then." He disappeared from Jizzy's field of vision. Jizzy remained silent for a few seconds and closed his eyes to keep waiting. Finally, it was the last day. Lin Feng rose up into the air. Jizzy instantly arrived next to him. Lin Feng glanced at him coldly. Silhouettes rose up into the air all around. Lin Feng smiled icily and said indifferently, "Give me back my things now." He had given them a demon hand, a sun disk and a boat. Everything appeared before Lin Feng, and he jumped onto the boat. "I know that some of you want to kill me, but don't try, otherwise 3 people will die at the same time." His boat shot across the sky. The demon pond slowly disappeared. Only a mere puddle was left. Everybody frowned and pulled long faces. "What's going on?" asked someone. They couldn't stand it anymore. Someone said icily, "He took the demon pond away." More people began shouting in outrage. "I'll kill him in the celestial country." "I'm coming too." "Nobody can go," said the great emperor icily. "A year ago, he killed Wuxia and the others. Now he has taken our demon pond and has practiced our Devamara body technique. And he's also been cleansed by Devamarakalpa strength. He must have become much stronger. Only Jizzy can kill him now. At the entrance of the celestial country, there were still some people waiting. There were even more people this time than the previous. People from everywhere in Hell had gathered there. The last year had been terrifying for Hell in the celestial country, with the Great War over the Milky Way battlefield happening. Therefore, Hell had to send even more people now, and reclaim it. When Lin Feng arrived, he had already put on a mask. The last time, he had escaped from Wang Xiao thanks to Minister Uptala. But this time Wang Xiao wasn't going to let him off if he saw him. Lin Feng didn't dare to gamble. Jizzy closely followed Lin Feng. As long as Lin Feng had his wife, he wouldn't be able to relax. Lin Feng glanced at the crowd and suddenly looked surprised. He's here too. Does he want to go to the celestial country too? Thought Lin Feng. He noticed Minister Kalasutra and his daughter Qin Yao. Apart from them, there were also many soldiers in armor. Those people were probably members of the Kalasutra army. Qin Yao had also become a medium-level Hell Emperor. Back when Lin Feng had just arrived in Hell, she was already at the top of the lower Huangqi layer. Now she had become stronger. It was normal after a year. But it was dangerous for someone like Qin Yao to go to the celestial country. There were many strong cultivators in the celestial country. Even though Qin Yao was strong, there were an endless number of people there who were stronger than her. Qin Yao, you should wait until you're a high-level Hell Emperor to go to the celestial country, advised Minister Kalasutra. He was worried for her. Dad, Lin Feng went to the celestial country, even though he had just become a medium-level Hell Emperor. And he also came out much stronger than before. How could I flinch? I've already modified the Hellfire. At the very least, I can protect myself, I won't die, replied Qin Yao, looking very determined. Wang Xiao and the others had chased Minister Uptala and Lin Feng. Everybody knew about that already. They also knew that Jian Mang had always hidden his real strength, and Wang Xiao and the others had prevented him from going to the celestial country and kidnapped him. Minister, this time, we'll go to the celestial country and protect the princess, a young man said to Minister Kalasutra. Minister Kalasutra remained silent for a few seconds. As long as they didn't encounter a terrifying cultivator, there should be no problem. Everybody had been waiting for such a long time. Finally, the lights were twinkling, but people were still waiting for some people to come out. Finally, the scouts came out. They were soaked with blood. They were high-level Hell Emperors, but they weren't extremely strong. How's the situation in the celestial country? Asked someone. The lead scout replied. This year, the strong cultivators of Hell resisted against the outsiders. But everything changed. The Milky Way battlefield isn't a border area anymore. There are strong cultivators everywhere, on both sides of it. That person didn't sound so sure because he hadn't been able to go to the Milky Way battlefield. He had just heard about those things. It's chaotic. Everything is chaotic there, thought the crowd. Some people continued coming out of the celestial country. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. That was a perfect opportunity. Don't forget your promise. Jizzy groaned icily. Lin Feng replied. When I go in, I'll release your wife. If you do anything dodgy, I'll kill her. Lin Feng then flashed in the direction of the entrance. Just before he entered the celestial country, a woman appeared, and he entered the celestial country alone as she fell. Little Hua! Jizzy exclaimed, flashing up and catching Yama Hua gently. He was so relieved. Lin Feng had released his wife, otherwise, he would have followed Lin Feng in and killed him. Yama Hua was bewildered as she asked, Where is he? He's in the celestial country, replied Jizzy. Yama Hua looked stunned for a moment, before turning furious and demanding, Kill him, Jizzy. You must kill that asshole. Jizzy said gently, Little Hua, did he do anything to you? Yama Hua shook her head but said, You must kill him. I'll take you back to the ancient demon clan first, Jizzy replied coldly. Chapter 1910. Celestial being Lin Feng was back in the celestial country once again. When he appeared there, many people looked over at him. The air still felt tense and dangerous. People had been fighting over this territory forever, after all. Lin Feng's silhouette flickered as he flew away. The strong cultivators from the continent of the Nine Clouds weren't here. After all, this was the entrance from hell. They couldn't be here the whole time. Otherwise it would have meant that the whole celestial country belonged to them. Suddenly, a cold chi surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng quickly turned around. He looked at the cultivator with his obsidian eyes. And that person shivered. How scary. Lin Feng ignored him and continued flying. After a short time, he arrived in a mountain range and found a cave. A light beam had come from the sky and created a crater in that place. The hole had appeared when Lin Feng was practicing cultivation the previous time here. It was also where the entrance of the Jalakandra fairyland was. There was nobody inside. Lin Feng found a cave and started meditating in seclusion. He needed to become stronger during this year. Thus he needed to kill many people. Even though Lin Feng had become quite strong, he still thought he wasn't strong enough. Many people here could possibly defeat him there, such as Ji Chong. Lin Feng's main advantage was that he was walking on the path of life and death. However, Ji Chong understood Dao's strength better than him, and Jizi was even more terrifying. Even with great imperial weapons, Lin Feng couldn't defeat him. However, Lin Feng was more confident than people who didn't understand Dao's strength at all. Few people of his generation could actually defeat him. At that moment in the continent of the Nine Clouds, in the Dark Night region, in Champion University, the people from Tiantai sensed some oppressive energies. In Tiantai's courtyard, a few people had gathered. Ho Qinglin, Tian Qi, Yin Qingyan Tantai Jingshou, Huang Fulong and someone else, Wuxia. During the past year, Emperor Wu Tianjian had returned to Sword Mountain. After he became a great emperor, he had started meditating in seclusion, studying the celestial evolution holy scriptures, and improving his nihility sword scriptures. In the end, he had managed to understand the path of nihilism. He had defeated Emperor Taijian, killing him. Emperor Wu Tianjian had become the new leader of Sword Mountain. The elders had then explained the secrets of Sword Mountain to everyone in Sword Mountain. Wuxia knew Emperor Wu Tianjian. Emperor Wu Tianjian had told Wuxia about Tiantai and everything. So Wuxia had gone to the holy city and had found Tiantai there. Tiantai, occupying the territory of the 9 great celestial castles, was a symbol for Tiantai. Qingdi Mountain was friends with Tiantai, so nobody could attack them. Tiantai's core disciples were all extremely talented. They had all studied the celestial evolution holy scriptures by now. However, a strange gloomy energy surrounded them. How are Qiuming's injuries? Ho Qinglin asked to Yin Qingyan. Yin Qingyan looked glum and pulled a long face, very severe. Many days are required to recover. That wasn't a good way to practice. 6 people from Tiantai have died already. 8 are severely injured. It's all my fault, sighed Ho Qinglin. The Moon Group used some evil techniques to spy on us and attack us by surprise. It has nothing to do with you, rebutted Yin Qingyan. Brother, don't say it's your fault, added Tian Qi. Everybody nodded agreement. 3 years have passed. We've all become stronger. Many of us have already become medium-level emperors. Ji Wuyo is the strongest cultivator they have in the Moon Group. He doesn't need excuses to fight against us though, said Qin Wu, pulling a long face. Indeed, the Moon Group was becoming stronger than Tiantai again. In Champion University, many people considered Tiantai weaker than the Moon Group. Many people in the Moon Group were extremely strong, especially Ji Wuyo. One had already become a high-level emperor. Because of the agreement between Lin Feng and the Moon Group, many people were trying to become high-level emperors. Ho Qinglin remained silent for a few seconds. Then he looked at Jing Shou, who was the same as before. He was wearing white clothes and his hands were still in his sleeves, like always. Jing Shou, how are your disciples doing? Ho Qinglin asked Jing Shou. No problem. I have a group of assassins already, Jing Shou said calmly. During these years, Jing Shou was in charge of teaching people how to become assassins in Tiantai. Alright, even if we lose, it doesn't matter. Sooner or later, we'll surpass the Moon Group. We just need more time. The most important thing is to avoid being ambushed by the Moon Group, said Ho Qinglin slowly. Everybody remained silent for a few seconds. They understood that Ho Qinglin was saying that for their own good. Tiantai had changed a lot. They had all become much stronger and had lots of heroes. The battle between Tiantai and the Moon Group was going to be incredible. Even if they lost, it didn't matter. They would learn from their mistakes, like back when they had defeated the Star Group. "How's Lin Feng doing?" Tiantai asked Ho Qinglin. Ho Qinglin replied, "Let's not think about Lin Feng." "All right," Tiantai nodded. He understood what Ho Qinglin meant. Maybe Lin Feng's real body wouldn't be able to make it back. In the Holy City, 3 months passed and new exams took place at university. People took the exams of the 4 universities. At that moment, in Champion University, near the territory where medium-level emperors were taking the exam, there were many strong cultivators. They were all incredible geniuses of the Holy City. The Yuan clan is here. Yuan Ting is another princess of the Yuan clan. She is even younger than Yuan Jing of a few years ago. She is extremely strong. And she's also very beautiful. I wonder if I could become her boyfriend. Wondered a young man staring at the object of his words. Do you think you will have such an opportunity? Stop dreaming. Yuan Jing will get married with Ji Wuyo. Yuan Ting is probably as strong as her sister. And she'll find an amazing husband too. Someone else rebutted him heartlessly. So many outstanding women. The Ji clan's young men are incredible strong. Ji Chong, Ji Wuyo, they're all astonishingly strong and talented. Even though the students of Champion University were incredibly strong, Yuan Ting was even better than most of them. She was a dazzling woman who always looked arrogant and proud. In the distance, someone else in white clothes appeared. She was wearing a veil which covered her face. Phew! What an incredibly beautiful woman! Sighed a young man. He had seen many beautiful women in his life, but this one was extraordinarily beautiful. Many people looked at her and couldn't look away. She looked like a goddess. She's so stunning, she's bewitching. Someone else blurted out. Everybody sighed. Such beauty. They wished they could see her face. Whisk away the veil covering it. In a short time, everybody stopped looking at Yuan Ting and looked at the new woman who was arriving. She landed gracefully on the ground, surrounded by a celestial qi. Everybody could sense how cold her qi was. People wanted to get closer, but they couldn't. She was already a medium-level emperor. Everybody had one thought. This woman had to be a princess, but from which influential group? Chapter 1911. Yuan Jing's embarrassment this time. Those who were in charge of the medium-level emperor's exam weren't a faction, but some strong cultivators from the higher-ranking list. Yuan Jing was one of them. During these last 3 years, Ji Wuyo and Yuan Jing had cultivated really hard. Whether in their clans or with ancestor Zhu Tian, they had become much stronger. During these 3 years, both of them had made great progress. Yuan Jing had become a medium-level emperor and acquired powerful new spells and techniques. She had become really strong. She had also stepped into the higher-ranking list as the 17th student. Accomplishing that in less than 3 years was a really good performance. Yuan Jing looked at one of the women sitting the exam. It was Yuan Ting, her younger sister. Yuan Ting is really strong. Passing the exam shouldn't be an issue for her. Yuan Jing smiled. She's indeed really strong. She will definitely pass the exam. Someone next to her nodded. They pointed at someone else and added, "That girl there is extraordinary. She's extremely strong. Nobody can stop her. She's even stronger than Yuan Ting." Yuan Jing looked over at the girl, who looked like a celestial being. Many people around here were staring at her. Yuan Jing groaned icily. Women could be very petty at times. When a man complimented a woman in front of another one, the latter couldn't help but be jealous. "Let's see if she will pass the exam or not," said Yuan Jing, staring at that celestial woman. The others frowned, but Yuan Jing's social status was too high, so they just smiled wryly in the end. Poor girl. She was extremely strong, but Yuan Jing would probably try her best to prevent her from passing the exam. However, after a short time, they remained motionless and stared at the contestants in astonishment. Yuan Jing was attacked by someone and forced to the ground. She was surrounded by an ice-cold layer of energy and shivering. She pulled a long face and stared at the beautiful girl with the veil, who was surrounded by a celestial qi. Yuan Jing's heart was pounding. She felt humiliated. She initially wanted to block that girl, but now she had been beaten down by her. Her pride and ego had been crushed. She couldn't even compete with this fellow contestant. How painful. Besides, that girl was even more beautiful than her. Who are you? Yuan Jing asked icily. She couldn't think of any clan in the holy city which this girl could have come from. The woman in white clothes looked at Yuan Jing, a picture of calm and serenity. Yuan Jing felt even worse. She couldn't see her eyes, but that girl was looking at her in a disdainful way. Everybody was staring at that beautiful woman, and she was looking at Yuan Jing, as if the fact that she had defeated Yuan Jing was just normal. The woman in white clothes passed next to Yuan Jing and continued walking on. Yuan Jing felt even more humiliated, turning her head and asking, "You're from the Snow Clan?" Yuan Jing had sensed the woman's qi. She looked beautiful, had an extraordinary qi, and was really strong. She could only be from the Snow Clan. She had fought against members of the Snow Clan in the past. Even though she had never seen this woman in particular, she was reminded of people from the Snow Clan. The woman in white clothes paused, but in the end she ignored Yuan Jing and continued walking away. Everybody had seen their meeting and were astonished at the results. Everybody was convinced that that new girl would pass the exam and rise quickly in Champion University. As expected, the woman passed the exam. The woman in white entered Champion University, those in charge of the exam leading the way. They were all curious about that mysterious girl. At the same time, everybody in Champion University was talking about that girl who had defeated Yuan Jing easily, some of them not believing the rumor. After the woman in white joined Champion University, she did only one thing. She asked about Tiantai and headed there. When the girl arrived at Tiantai's buildings, some people stopped her. When Yun Qingyan saw this beautiful woman, she rose up into the air and was on the defensive. "You want to join Tiantai?" asked Yun Qingyan with a careful smile. This young woman was beautiful. Yun Qingyan didn't feel good in front of her. Since when did this woman join Champion University? Qingyan had never seen her before. The woman in white studied Yun Qingyan and then looked behind her, seeing some other people. Her eyes twinkled, and she immediately ran past Yun Qingyan. "You!" Yun Qingyan was astonished. She turned around and saw the woman in white already in the distance. She was speechless. That woman hadn't looked threatening and didn't seem to want to attack. "Ho Qing Lin," said the woman in white when she arrived at the courtyard. She rose up into the air slightly, and everybody looked at her, surprised by her sudden presence. Many people had the same thoughts as Yun Qingyan. When Ho Qing Lin heard someone call his name, he was also surprised. He raised his head and was astonished. Yuan Fei, Huang Fulong, and the others were astonished too. The woman removed her veil, and they all sort of gaped at her breathtaking beauty. "How beautiful," thought Yun Qingyan, also catching up at that moment. "What a beautiful woman." Qing Feng was astonished too. She was the princess of the animal world. She was already extremely beautiful, but this young woman was even more beautiful than her. When the woman in white saw Ho Qing Lin, Tian Qi, Yuan Fei and the others, she smiled resplendently. Only Wu looked back at her in a cold and arrogant manner. "What about him?" asked the woman in white. She smiled only because she was thinking of him. "He's traveling abroad." Ho Qing Lin sighed back to the woman in white. He was excited to see her. Unfortunately, that guy hadn't even left a clone of his in Tiantai. The woman in white suddenly stopped smiling, looking very disappointed. "I'll prepare a residence for you. You'll see him when he comes back," Ho Qing Lin added quickly. "Yes, sister, he also misses you," added Yuan Fei loudly. Yuan Fei, Ban Rua, and Xingzhan were also students at Champion University these days. The woman in white was naturally Meng Qing. She wasn't used to seeing all of them together, so she shook her head and smiled. "Nah, the university will get something sorted for me. Just tell me when he comes back." She put her veil back on and left gracefully. Meng Qing had grown up in Black Wind Mountain. Then she had met Lin Feng and had explored the world, but she didn't like commotion, especially when Lin Feng wasn't there with her. She wasn't used to dealing with so many people at the same time. "She hasn't changed, she's still the same," laughed Yuan Fei. Ho Ching Lin, and the others understood that was her personality. They were happy to see Meng Qing finally make it to Champion University, though. Who was that beautiful woman? Asked Yun Qingyan. Her heart was still pounding. Lin Feng's wife, Ho Ching Lin told her. Yun Qingyan was astonished. She smiled and said, "That guy is really lucky." Wu and Qing Feng were astonished too. Wu looked at Qing Feng, who appeared quite calm, wondering what she thought about Meng Qing. No need to tell everyone about this. She doesn't like it when people disturb her, Ho Ching Lin reminded them. Everybody nodded. If Ji Cheng's club learned that Meng Qing was Lin Feng's wife, they would bully her. Ho Ching Lin didn't want anything bad to happen to Meng Qing. Chapter 1912. 3 years have passed in the celestial country of Lin Feng's small world. There was a mountain range. A demon pond was there now, the water black and containing a terrifying demon chi. It was the demon pond Lin Feng had stolen from the ancient demon clan. He had practiced the ancient demon clan's technique and had a Devamara body. He had become much stronger physically. Now he was practicing cultivation in the demon pond. Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes, black demon lights twinkling within them. He disappeared and reappeared somewhere else. Jian Meng was seated cross-legged there. He was practiced cultivation calmly and patiently. Since Lin Feng had put him in there, and he couldn't get out, he had nothing else to do. Maybe if he became strong enough, he'd be able to leave someday. Jian Meng sensed something and raised his head. He couldn't see, but he sensed Lin Feng's presence. "If I'm not wrong, we're in another world." "How did you do that?" asked Jian Meng. He could sense that he was in a different world. People who were alive could only be captured in other worlds. Lin Feng didn't reply, staring at Jian Meng. Jian Meng asked mildly, "What are you going to do with me?" A terrifying chi suddenly rose up in the air. A demon appeared in Lin Feng's mind, and then appeared behind him like an illusion. In the ancient demon clan, there was a spell. Cultivators could condense their souls to create a demon fire and burn people's souls. And then wielding a mysterious power, they could create 81 demon imprints. With those 81 demon imprints, they could create a demon. It was a very complex and mysterious spell. People who were not talented didn't even need to attempt to learn the demon puppet technique. Even though Lin Feng couldn't learn it, he had learned a spell to spy on people. With the demon puppet spell, cultivators could plant a demon puppet seed in someone's soul and spy on them. The members of the ancient demon clan didn't use it because it wasn't as powerful as the ancient demon imprint. However, Lin Feng could use it on Jian Meng. "Jian Meng, I'm going to plant a demon puppet seed in your soul, and then I will release you. My actual body is in the celestial country," Lin Feng said coldly. "What do you want me to do?" asked Jian Meng. He didn't refuse, of course. What could he do anyway? Lin Feng had everything under control. "Follow me to the Milky Way battlefield. We'll kill people and get out from there," Lin Feng proposed. Jian Meng frowned. He understood, killing people on the Milky Way battlefield was a good thing. But getting out from there? Dark lights sparkled, and a demon puppet seed penetrated into Jian Meng's brain. He didn't resist. "Let's go out," said Lin Feng indifferently. A short time later, 2 people appeared in the air above a mountain range, Lin Feng and Jian Meng. They immediately turned into 2 light beams and headed off. The celestial country was still chaotic. People were fighting everywhere. Qin Yao and the others had encountered some extremely strong cultivators. A terrifying fire had filled the air. It was hellfire, and Qin Yao was inside. "You're a strong little girl, aren't ya?" said someone, smiling evilly. Then, he did some hand seals and a terrifying chi shot towards Qin Yao and the strong cultivators who were protecting her. The black chi turned into light beams. "Burn!" An ebony flame countered, shooting back towards him. Qin Yao's hellfire. Thunder rumbled in the air, and a gigantic mountain fell down from the sky. The air became thick and heavy. "Princess Qin Yao, move back!" shouted a member of the Kalasutra army. These peoples were all outsiders. Their third eyes had imprints, and were all very strong. Qin Yao nodded and continued retreating. The ancient mountain continued falling down from the sky, emitting sonic booms. Everybody fled. Around Qin Yao, everything was burning. Soul stirring. shouted an icy voice. Qin Yao gazed into the distance and saw a darkness waiting in the air. Her soul started shaking, and her hellfire started weakening. Qin Yao, shouted someone explosively. Qin Yao shook violently. Some people wanted to save her, but the mountain was falling. The enemies were heroic figures too. Qin Yao and the others were unlucky to have encountered them. Here, shouted someone at Qin Yao. She turned around and saw an evil-looking person. It felt like he started absorbing her soul. Two silhouettes appeared, moving so fast the air was screaming around them. When they saw Qin Yao, they were both startled. Lin Feng lunged towards the man who was attacking Qin Yao. The man frowned and glared at Lin Feng. He tried to use his soul-stirring spell on him, but all he saw was a pair of pitch-black eyes filled with death strength staring back in him. And death chi started flooding into his body. Lin Feng waved his hands, and a death kulpa sword appeared. In a flash, the sword pierced through that man's head and just a blur of motion Jian Mang attacked at the same time as Lin Feng. Sword lights moved everywhere invisibly quick. If the surrounding people hadn't seen that speed with their own eyes, they would have never believed that a medium-level emperor could be that fast. Jian Mang's sword attacks were also dazzling to the eyes. He used light strength. When Qin Yao saw all this, she was stunned and disappointed. Lin Feng and Jian Mang had become so strong. She remembered back when Lin Feng had defeated her on the battle stage. Back then, she had thought she'd get her revenge someday. But now the difference between her and Lin Feng was even greater. Lin Feng could easily kill her, and could even easily kill the strong cultivators who were guarding her. He killed like an emotionless murderer. After a short time, the battle was over. Lin Feng looked at Qin Yao. Why did you save me? Qin Yao asked Lin Feng. She had always been hostile to Lin Feng. Tell Wang Xiao that I haven't forgotten about him, replied Lin Feng, before he and Jian Mang continued on their way. Qin Yao felt like trash. Lin Feng didn't even pay attention to her, a princess of hell. Lin Feng and Jian Mang moved invisibly fast through the Milky Way battlefield. Nobody could stop them. Their hands and clothes were soaked with blood. They had already killed a great number of people on the battlefield. The Milky Way battlefield was still very mysterious. The yellow springs were under them. People couldn't go down there without dying. There were only corpses in the yellow springs. Lin Feng and Jian Mang continued flying towards the edge of the battlefield, carefully keeping track of their surroundings. The 3-year period will soon be over, Lin Feng said to himself. Because of Wang Xiao, he might miss the date of the agreement. What would Ho Qinglin and the others do? At the same time, in the dark night region of the continent of the 9 clouds, Lin Feng's clone flew towards Champion University, intending to uphold the agreement, of course. Chapter 1913. Foil and Champion University, the Holy City, the Dark Night region. The atmosphere was very tense. 3 years before, in Champion University, a new group had risen, Tiantai. Some incredible cultivators had risen with it. They had defeated the star group of Ji Cheng's club. After that, they had agreed on a date for a battle between the Moon group and them. Now it was about to happen. Ji Wuyo is back, someone called out. They had seen him flying in the sky, dressed in fine clothes. The strong cultivators of the Moon group have already come back. They've gone to the battle stage of the higher ranking list. And Lin Feng has disappeared. We rarely see him at university. We'll see what Tiantai intends to do against the Moon group, said someone, looking in Tiantai's direction. The Moon group had been rising these last few days, and were pressuring Tiantai. Yes, well, Tiantai is still a new group. And during these 3 years, the Moon group has become much stronger. One of them even become a high-level emperor and left the Moon group. Some people didn't break through on purpose, just because of this battle. Those who joined Tiantai 3 years ago are still low-level emperors. Defeating the cultivators of the Moon group will be very difficult. The cultivators of the Moon group were also very talented. Tiantai's cultivators couldn't possibly have broken through within 3 years. That was much too difficult. By the way, a new celestial girl has joined our university. Have you seen her? Only once. She really looks like a celestial being. I wonder who she is. I've heard that she defeated Yuan Jing during the exam. Yuan Jing went back to meditate in seclusion and hasn't come out since. Yuan Jing is the princess of the Yuan clan and Ji Wuyo's woman. She has a very high social status. Some people wanted to avenge Yuan Jing and went to find that celestial girl. However, after seeing her, they were very polite to her, exchanged a few words, and just left. Haha, how could you attack such a beautiful woman? Impossible. They say she's a celestial woman from the Snow clan. I wonder if it's true or not. In Champion University, people talked a lot about Tiantai and the Moon Group, as well as the celestial woman. Many people wanted to get to know her, but she was very distant. In Tiantai's buildings in a secret room, Ho Qing Lin was releasing reincarnation cosmic energy. He frowned and kept attacking. Arg, this is frustrating. What is my path? Thought Ho Qing Lin with a long sigh. Ji Wuyo already understood Dao strength. Even though the Ji clan helped him a lot, he was also quite strong and very talented. But Ho Qing Lin also had the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures, so he couldn't be weaker than Ji Wuyo. He had to understand his own path, his own Dao. Otherwise, even if he became a great emperor, he would be weak, and stronger great emperors would oppress him. After a few minutes, Ho Qing Lin took a deep breath and stood up. It was time to fight against the Moon Group. Even if he hadn't managed to understand Dao's strength, he had to respect the agreement. Even if they lost, it didn't matter. There was an ocean of people at the battle stage of the higher ranking list. There were even some high-level emperors. The cultivators of Tiantai and the Moon Group who were going to fight were heroic, and a lot of people paid attention to them. Ji Wuyo and the other members of the Moon Group had already arrived. Ji Wuyo looked angry. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes, trying to forget about the outside world. But he couldn't hide his qi, he was too furious. He wanted to get his revenge, it was time. Ji Wuyo has become so strong already. Maybe he will become the first cultivator of Champion University someday. Just like Ji Chong, exclaimed a young man wearing blue and green clothes. There were many people behind him, including many high-level emperors and medium-level emperors. Zone K, Ji Wuyo is a little boy who doesn't like it when people compare him with his brother, said someone next to him. He was an ordinary and simple-looking man named Lu Yen. They were all excited to see the battle. In Champion University, the most powerful groups were usually created by high-level emperors, just like Ji Chang's club had been created by Ji Chong. Since he was the first student of Champion University, Ji Chang's club was also very famous and had a good reputation. The stronger the leader of a group, the better the reputation of the group. The Stone Group and the Wind Clan were two other powerful groups in Champion University. The strong cultivators of the Stone Group all controlled Earth cosmic energy. They exchanged a lot in terms of Earth cultivation. Their leader was Zone K, the fifth cultivator of the Celestial Champion ranking list. The Wind Clan had been created by Lu Yen. He was the seventh cultivator of the ranking list and controlled wind strength. People from the Wind Clan were all extremely fast. 1,000 years from now, they would become terrifyingly powerful and could become an ancient clan. The founder of the Wind Clan was from an ancient clan. In the Dark Night region, many people from ancient clans created new clans, sects, and other organizations. Zone K and Lu Yin came to watch the battles. It seems that the fighting will be incredible. Many public figures from Champion University are here. I wonder where the great emperors are. Mused someone who had recognized Lu Yen and Zone Quebec. When people became great emperors, they rarely showed up at the university. Great emperors liked to travel everywhere in the continent. Great emperors could be considered genuinely strong. They could create sects, clans, and travel anywhere. Little boy. He now understands Dao strength. He'll probably soon be on the list of potential champions, replied Zone K, smiling indifferently. Zone K, since you came back from the celestial country, do you understand Dao's strength now too? Asked Lu Yen when he saw Zone K's smile. Many people who were on the Celestial Champion ranking list and gone to the celestial country had died. Many other people had already replaced them. Some people had also decided to stay in the celestial country to continue practicing. Lu Yen had heard that Zone K had obtained some mysterious things and had been meditating in seclusion during the previous days. What do you think? Said Zone Quebec. He almost looked evil. The crowd looked solemn and gazed into the distance. A group of people was coming over. They were very young and looked extraordinary. The people from Tiantai. Zone K and Lu Yen studied the group. Zone K said, "They are still new in Champion University, but they are really strong. As I see it, Tiantai is just a new group, but they are already powerful. In 10 years, they'll become really terrifying." 10 years is too long. I've heard that even the Sun Group even wanted to oppress Tiantai. Ji Cheng's club won't let Tiantai rise that easily. They won't let Tiantai suppress the Star Group, and the Moon Group that easily either. Ji Cheng's club already feels humiliated. You don't understand the temper of those people, Lu Yen said indifferently. Many people thought that it was too late. Tiantai had oppressed and humiliated the Star Group, but they wouldn't be able to defy the Moon Group. They had been lucky the first time, but now they weren't going to be able to rise anymore. They were under too much pressure. Ji Wuyo was seated cross-legged in the air, and suddenly opened his eyes, which glittered with sharp lights. His chi started rolling around him. The energy's destructive and oppressive. They're finally here. Ji Wuyo slowly stood up and looked over at those people. Finally, after 3 years. That celestial girl is here too. Many people noticed Meng Qing in her white clothes. She was mysterious. So many people just called her the celestial woman or celestial girl. I wouldn't have thought that she would be interested in the battle too, thought the crowd. People knew almost nothing about her, just that she rarely went anywhere. Yu Wenjing, who was standing next to Ji Wuyo, looked over at Meng Qing angrily. She hadn't shown up publicly for a while precisely because of Meng Qing. Everybody in Champion University knew that Yu Wenjing had been defeated by that woman during her exam. And she was also much more beautiful than Wenjing. She had turned into a mere foil in other people's eyes. Chapter 1914. Aggressive Tiantai's people were under pressure. "Where's Lin Feng?" shouted Ji Wuyo furiously. He had been waiting for 3 years. Lin Feng had humiliated him. They had to come back, all of them. "He will come when he's ready," said Ho Qinglin calmly. He raised his head. The sun was in the middle of the sky. It was noon. Lin Feng's clone was probably going to arrive at any minute. "He's hiding. Since it's that way, I'll crush you all, and we'll see if he doesn't show up," swore Ji Wuyo furiously. "Today we'll fight on 3 battle stages at the same time. If you come onto the battle stage, you cannot jump off. If you are forced off the battle stage, it means you lost, otherwise you can't jump off. We'll fight like that until nobody's left. Will you dare or not?" 3 years had passed. This time, nobody could jump off the stage. They had to fight until the end. "Why wouldn't we dare?" said Ho Qinglin calmly. "Since it's that way, let's fight," said Ji Wuyo. 3 different people landed on the battle stages. All of them strong cultivators from the Moon Group. These people are quite weak in the Moon Group. They just want to see how strong Tiantai's people are, thought the more knowledgeable observers. Ho Qinglin's silhouette flickered. Lin Feng still hadn't come back. It didn't matter. If they lost, Lin Feng's clone wouldn't be able to save the situation anyway. "Huang Fulong, Tiantai, Qin Wu, you start," said Ho Qinglin calmly. They nodded and jumped onto the battle stages to start the fights. Lin Feng didn't know about what was going on there. His clone was in the Holy City and racing towards Champion University. His real body was on the Milky Way battlefield. Dazzling swords streaked across the sky, and he cut apart an enemy. He also captured items which fell in the form of meteors. They could already see the boundary between the Milky Way battlefield and the other side. Lin Feng and Jian Meng ran towards that celestial border. Their third eyes twinkled, and a new imprint appeared. "Let's avoid the crowd and get out of here," Lin Feng said to Jian Meng. They were flying so fast that whistling sounds followed after them. After a short time, they arrived on the other side of the Milky Way battlefield. When people noticed that they had an imprint, they wanted to kill the two. Lin Feng was convinced he could defeat many people, but he couldn't defeat an army. He wasn't strong enough yet. "Intruders!" shouted someone icily. His eyes were as bright as suns and dazzling, a fire burning in them. He immediately started running towards Lin Feng and Jian Meng. "Kill," said Lin Feng. Jian Meng moved invisibly fast. His eyes became dazzling with light strength. Instantly, their enemy had the sensation he was going blind. Jian Mang looked like a dazzling light beam, a sword of pure light. In comparison with Jian Mang's swords, the sun actually looked quite pale. Lin Feng's eyes were all gray as he watched Jian Mang's amazing speed. At the same level, it was difficult to compete with Jian Mang in terms of speed. After killing that person, they continued flying on their way. In the distance, many people saw them and raced towards them, attempting to surround them. "Intruders, kill them!" shouted someone explosively. Lin Feng pulled a long face. That person had shouted so loudly that many people probably heard him. During the year which had passed, the two worlds had been fighting constantly on the Milky Way battlefield. Each time they noticed intruders, they didn't hesitate and joined hands to slaughter them. They wanted to protect their side of the Milky Way battlefield. "3 high-level emperors," said Lin Feng to Jian Mang coldly. "You kill the one on the right. I'll block the 2 others." Jian Mang nodded as those people drew closer. Dazzling lights illuminated the atmosphere again. Jian Mang threw himself at the one who came from the right. One of the cultivators coming from the left also sensed those whistling sword energies. He was startled and suddenly stopped in place, releasing his soul strength. Lin Feng moved towards the one in the middle and released Death Culpa strength. That cultivator was surrounded by green earth strength, and Lin Feng's strength couldn't pierce through. Such a powerful defense, thought Lin Feng. Lin Feng accelerated, and his black water appeared. Death Dao intent. His enemy was astonished. Lin Feng landed in front of him and punched him violently, while releasing Devamara Culpa strength against the dazzling green lights around him. Crackling sounds spread as his green armor cracked. Still Lin Feng frowned. What kind of armor was that? His defense was terrifying. Earth cosmic energies were great for defense. Death strength could easily corrode people's lives and kill them. But his opponent's defense was so great that the death strength couldn't pierce through. Lin Feng's attack seemed inefficient. "Break!" shouted Lin Feng explosively, releasing immortal strength. Deadly cosmic energies filled the air. Lin Feng attacked his enemy dozens of times, and the armor kept crackling from the impacts. Lin Feng's physical strength was overwhelming, finally blasting apart the green lights. Lin Feng's fist crashed onto his enemy, and his head exploded. Even though the enemy had incredible defense skills, he wasn't that strong at all. After his kill, a deadly strength appeared behind Lin Feng, but flickers of sword light glittered and destroyed it. Jian Mang continued on to attack the last one. Lin Feng turned around and used his Nihility sword, but Jian Mang killed him first. "Hurry up and run!" shouted Lin Feng when he sensed more energies converging on them. Lin Feng's soul was shaking violently. After all, they were on the Milky Way battlefield, and the people who came there were extremely strong. Roar! Dragon chants arose and bestial chi pulsed. Lin Feng saw a silhouette coming towards him. That person's third eye was dazzling. It was someone from hell. Aoshu. Lin Feng was startled when he saw the new arrival. Surprisingly, it was Aoshu. 2 years before, they had been to the Pathfinder Peak together, and now Aoshu had come back. He seemingly understood the basics of Dao strength now, as well. "Lin Feng, here we meet again," said Aoshu, frowning and laughing at the same time. In the distance, some strong cultivators from the continent of the 9 clouds had arrived too. "Those guys don't let anyone from hell come here. Lin Feng, let's go and kill them together, alright?" said Aoshu cheerfully. A gigantic and terrifying hand imprint appeared and hurtled out. Aoshu laughed loudly. He was from the Dragon clan. His physical body was astonishingly powerful. The enemy could feel Aoshu's oppressive energies. "Die!" shouted Aoshu explosively. He punched out, shaking the sky. Rumbling sounds spread in the air. His target's body instantly exploded, pieces of flesh and viscera flying everywhere. The other outsiders around were astonished and stopped moving. "Aoshu, I see that you also comprehended Dao strength after you went to the Pathfinder Peak. But what kind of Dao is it?" Lin Feng asked him. "Aggressive, the path of aggressiveness. You can also call it the path of strength. Dragons are aggressive and physically strong. I am from the Dragon clan. I must be brutal, violent, and aggressive," Aoshu declared. He seemed extremely enthusiastic. "Indeed, it suits you perfectly. You are even more aggressive indeed. Lin Feng nodded. Dao's strength was very mysterious. It was not just about one's way, but also about one's personality. Lin Feng was walking on the path of life and death. Officer Uptala had walked on the great path of the Uptala. Aoshi was walking on the path of aggressiveness. Chapter 1915. World of the Living Imprint. There were many strong cultivators around Lin Feng. And the other two. Lin Feng glanced at them icily, and released a lot of death strength. The strong cultivators shook. This guy looked ordinary, but a single glance, and he could kill people. Lin Feng, you started walking on the path of life and death. How's it going? Asked Aoshi as he released oppressive energies. Aoshi was a dragon cultivator, terrifyingly strong. And he had a high cultivation level too. He was far from ordinary. Lin Feng and Jian Meng were fighting too. Jian Meng had turned into lights. His silhouette kept flickering here and there. Lin Feng was cutting apart people one after another with Kulpa sword attacks. At the same time, death strength surrounded him like an ocean. Many of his foes died when the black water reached them. Those three people understand Dao strength. The expressions of the people who were coming to attack them changed drastically. They were frightened and dispersed quickly. Die, said Aoshi. Dragon claws attacked one of them. Blood splashed, and he was torn apart. Another man shouted in alarm, and looked at Aoshi come towards him. His face ferocious and bloodthirsty. Aoshi brandished his claws. A blood dragon appeared and grabbed that man's body, and ripped him apart violently. Many strong cultivators tried to stop the three of them, and died. Silhouettes fell from the sky one after another. However, more and more strong cultivators were alerted when they heard the sounds of fighting, and headed towards them. A mysterious chi spread out from the Milky Way. The crowd was startled to see a mountain range fall from the sky. It contained an incredibly oppressive chi. The wind started blowing, clouds appeared, and blotted out the sun and the sky. It looked apocalyptic. When Lin Feng saw that ancient mountain, he was astonished. It was the same thing as when the man with the immortal king body type had appeared. Was there someone in this mountain too? But this ancient mountain was different from a celestial mountain. This ancient mountain had an incredibly oppressive strength. Dazzling lights shone all around it as it turned into a gigantic ancient imprint. It felt like it could destroy this world. That ancient imprint didn't have earth or empty space strength. It was a pure imprint. Maybe something great is going to happen this time, whispered Aoshi when he saw the ancient mountain. The mountain descended from the sky and moved towards the yellow springs. It didn't drown in the yellow springs, but just like a paper boat, it started floating atop the yellow springs. An incredible sight. What kind of ancient mountain is that? Surprisingly, it doesn't sink, thought Lin Feng with an astonished frown. When the mountain had descended from the sky, it looked small, but now it looked gigantic. There was a flat land in it too. It looked like a gigantic hand imprint with a terrifying chi which rose to the skies. Many people came over quickly. Even the people who had been looking at Lin Feng and his allies were now staring at the mountain. Let's go and see, said Aoshi suddenly, and he raced ahead. He quickly landed at the front of the mountain, and a terrifying strength dashed to the skies. Dazzling lights emerged from Aoshi's eyes, and the crowd saw him stomp the ground beneath him with his right foot. The whole mountain shook violently, the shockwaves sending the closest watchers tumbling, as everyone clutched at their ears. There was an eruption beneath him, and Aoshi was hurled away bleeding. What a terrifying imprint technique. The world of the living imprint. Aoshi was astonished and frowning. The crowd was staring at Aoshi, trembling after his display. That mountain's imprint was terrifying. Does it have Dao power? Lin Feng asked Aoshi. The mountain had to contain Dao power. Otherwise it couldn't have thrown Aoshi away and injured him. Apparently, I can't recognize what strength it is. It's an ancient imprint. It probably doesn't contain any kind of strength, said Aoshi. The crowd was astonished. Someone else went up to the mountain and jumped down on it. The same thing happened to them as to Aoshi. But that man didn't even manage to walk on it as long as Aoshi, and was hurled away even more forcefully. Lin Feng's eyes glittered before he took his own chance to jump to the front of the mountain. When he landed, he sensed an oppressive strength pulsing towards him. Those were ancient imprints coming from the earth and sky. That wasn't any type of strength behind them, it seemed. The ancient imprints alone surged towards him violently. That strength comes from nowhere. Does it have Dao power? Lin Feng frowned as he moved back. He didn't persist. However, Lin Feng was running backwards but moving forwards. There was a mysterious gravitational force coming from that mountain. Quickly, the mountain disappeared from people's field of vision. They were all astonished. Lin Feng just looked at the traces of oppressive strength. Aoshi was astonished too, but he looked at Lin Feng, whose eyes were obsidian. He jumped up and said, "Let's get out and kill." Aoshi's eyes twinkled, and he burst into bold laughter. They wanted to kill these people and reach the other side. Lin Feng was more than daring and bold enough to go with him. His purple tank appeared and rolled in the air, full of death lights. Lin Feng and the two others moved invisibly fast. Lin Feng did a knife hand strike, and a death river appeared before them. Who would dare to block them? However, some people moved towards them, trying to kill them. Lin Feng released dazzling Devamarakalpa strength. Some pitch-black death swords appeared and shot out in all directions. Lin Feng stared at one cultivator, who sensed death strength invading his body. Lin Feng didn't stop. He continued racing forwards. Aoshi's eyes were filled with flames of fury. Dragon chants spread in the air. He raised both his fists and suddenly, hundreds of blood dragons appeared and moved towards his target. The dragons grabbed him with their claws and shredded him. Nobody could stop them. Jianmeng was behind Aoshi and released dazzling sword lights. Aoshi worked with him as easily as Lin Feng. Those three people understand Dao strength. They're really strong. The outsider crowd was appalled, and many people ran away from the three of them, not daring to fight. Lin Feng and Jianmeng's attacks were dangerous. One of them could kill people by glancing at them, and the other one was as fast and swift as light. Aoshi's attacks were overwhelmingly brutal. The Milky Way started crackling, and another mountain descended from the sky. Many people noticed it and attacked the mountain, trying to break it. However, a terrifying demon cultivator appeared out of it and began killing. He looked in the direction of the continent of the 9 clouds on the other side of the Milky Way, and his eyes glittered. He then rose up into the air, and nobody dared to stop him. That demon cultivator was Juzi from the ancient demon clan. He had missed the 3-day opening period, and was descending from the sky, just like the young man with the immortal king body back then. Chapter 1916. Oppressing Ji Wuyo in Champion University. On the battle stage of the higher ranking list, the Moon Group and Tiantai were fighting violently, especially since they couldn't give up. They had to lose to leave off the battle stage. Nobody would get away unharmed. The audience were astonished and amazed by Tiantai's progress. In only 3 years, they had become so strong. They could even compete with the powerful Moon Group. Tiantai's cultivators were really talented, especially since so many of them were low-level emperors, and most cultivators of the Moon Group were medium-level emperors. However, if the crowd knew that Tiantai's cultivators had all studied the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures, they wouldn't have been surprised. With the Celestial Evolution Holy Scriptures, coupled with their talent, they could only be very strong, especially since Ho Qing Lin had taken them abroad to gather experience. They hadn't wasted a single minute during those 3 years. Those bastards, the Moon Group recruited some strong cultivators again. They definitely have an advantage, said Tiantai. He was furious. He had participated in the first round of battles. He had faced 3 strong cultivators, but the last one was terrifying, and he had forced Tiantai off from the battle stage. On another battle stage, Ji Wuyo defeated Tianqi brother. Ji Wuyo really understands Dao strength, destructive Dao strength. He even destroyed my sentient being's Buddhist enlightenment and indestructible golden body with his Dao strength. Be very careful when you fight against him, said Tianqi. He was very strong, but Ji Wuyo had defeated him, and he was still bleeding. Even though he couldn't continue fighting, he was still proud of himself. I understand. Don't worry and focus on healing your wounds now, nodded Ho Qing Lin. Then, he looked at Ji Wuyo and released reincarnation strength, his expression furious. So Lin Feng is a coward? said Ji Wuyo icily, while releasing ice-cold and oppressive energy around Tiantai's cultivators. However, a silhouette in white clothes landed in front of Ji Wuyo. Some ice-cold chi appeared and snowflakes swirled around. The atmosphere started freezing. The crowd frowned. What was the celestial woman in white clothes doing on the battle stage? Besides, she looked furious, and the atmosphere was freezing around her. The crowd didn't understand. Were there tensions between Ji Wuyo and the celestial being? Ji Wuyo was astonished too, and said politely, "This is a battle between Tiantai and the Moon Group. It has nothing to do with you. Please get down." Ho Qinglin was astonished. His silhouette flickered as he moved to intervene. He wanted to make Meng Qing get down from the battle. What could he say to Lin Feng if Meng Qing got injured? However, Meng Qing started attacking. She disappeared and reappeared right before Ji Wuyo, striking out in Ji Wuyo's direction. The atmosphere around her fist froze. Ji Wuyo had the sensation his blood was going to freeze. How strong! Thought many people, shooting to their feet in the bleachers. Teleportation. Freezing Ji Wuyo. This woman who had been at Champion University for such a short time was so strong. Collapse! Shouted Ji Wuyo, releasing dazzling Cyan Dragon totems. At the same time, terrifying destructive Dao strength suddenly appeared and the ice exploded. However, Meng Qing released awe-inspiring ice energies once again, and the destructive Dao strength itself started freezing. Ji Wuyo suddenly looked petrified as his arms started freezing as well. Dao intent. Zhong Ke and Lu Yin in the bleachers suddenly stood up. They were all astonished. What was going on? Tiantai's cultivators were too impressive. Those people had been in Champion University for 5 years? Ji Wuyo was extremely strong. He understood Dao strength. But now a new student was overwhelming him, and surprisingly, she also understood Dao strength, and was walking on the path of ice. Ho Qinglin had stopped moving stunned. Meng Qing was incredible. Ho Qinglin smiled inside. He hadn't thought Meng Qing would be so strong. His teacher had told him that Xue Linglong was from the Snow Clan, and was extremely powerful. However, in the small world, they couldn't imagine what that meant. Ho Qinglin was still slowly starting to understand the outside world. He raised his head. The battles had already gone on for a while. Half of Tiantai's cultivators were injured. 4 hours had passed already. A strong wind started blowing. Some people started whispering. Ho Qinglin turned around and saw Lin Feng arrive. It was Lin Feng's clone. He had been traveling for a while, and now he was back. He was shocked. He hadn't thought the battles would have started. Meng Qing. Lin Feng looked at her, as she was battling against Ji Wuyo. Even though she was wearing a veil, Lin Feng could recognize her qi. "Brother, what's going on?" Lin Feng asked Ho Qinglin. Ho Qinglin rapidly explained everything to Lin Feng. Lin Feng nodded. "Brother, you go on the farthest battle stage, and I'll go on the right one. The Moon Group can't win any battle stage." "That's what I wanted to do," said Ho Qinglin, nodding. He headed towards a battle stage. A strong cultivator from the Moon Group was already waiting for him there. Reincarnation lights twinkled. Ho Qinglin was already angry, and surged to the attack. His enemy was shaking violently. He had the sensation the reincarnation holes were absorbing him. Ho Qinglin jumped. His reincarnation strength turned into a vortex. It was going to absorb the man. He started to understand Dao strength. How insane! Ho Qinglin didn't even realize what was going on in his body. He pummeled his enemy and blasted him away. Zhong Ke and Lu Yin were stupefied. Ho Qinglin was so furious that he was starting to use Dao strength. He started charging. His enemy's face turned deathly pale. Reincarnation strength surrounded him and turned into a vortex. The strong cultivator of the Moon Group was terrified. "Arg!" the trapped man shouted furiously. He was hurled away and driven from the battle stage. The crowd was astonished. The strong cultivators of the Moon Group were stupefied. Crackling sounds kept spreading in the air as they all clenched their fists. Lin Feng's clone was on the battle stage too. Even though he was just a clone and couldn't use the strength of his real body, his soul was connected to his real body and kept progressing. His physical strength was explosive. He pummeled his foe with his punches, and his opponent's bones instantly broke. Lin Feng's clone also knew the same cosmic energies as he did. Lin Feng is progressing so quickly, the crowd exclaimed in amazement. His cosmic energies had become much more incredible, and so had his physical strength. Piss off! A voice drew people's attention. Ji Wuyo and Meng Qing were still fighting. Initially, they didn't know how strong Meng Qing was, but now Ji Wuyo was injured. However, he had become furious, and was doing all he could to stop Meng Qing. He used his full strength, but it didn't work. Meng Qing could teleport, and her ice energies were terrifying. That girl is incredibly strong. She can oppress Ji Wuyo. The crowd was astonished. Was she really from the Snow Clan? What does the battle between Tiantai and the Moon Group have to do with you? Asked Ji Wuyo, staring at Meng Qing. 3 years had passed. Now a new girl had become a student at their university, and she was humiliating him again. Humph. A stranger dares get involved in Tiantai and the Moon Group's battle. If she doesn't piss off, don't blame me for being impolite, said a strong cultivator standing in the bleachers icily. His energies were fearsome, and the crowd frowned. It was a strong cultivator from the Sun Group, someone from the Celestial Champion ranking list. Chapter 1917. Killing Lin Feng. However, some strong other cultivators were staring at Lin Feng, not Meng Qing. Zhong Ke and Lu Yin were staring at him and frowned. They didn't understand something. They had seen Lin Feng before, but they didn't recognize him this time. There was something different. His chi was different too. His chi was terrifying, but it was like he had come from the celestial country or hell. He controlled hell-death strength, and his eyes contained death chi. He looked like a demon. Is it really him? Thought Zhong Ke and Lu Yen. They weren't sure. Ho Qinglin looked at the one who had just threatened Meng Qing and said icily, "And how dare you get involved in the Moon Group's affairs?" "Bastard!" shouted back Shi Hao Tian. His voice made everyone shake, as his voice resonated in people's brains. Shi Hao Tian from Ji Cheng's club. 4th on the Celestial Champion ranking list. He's terrifying, the second strongest cultivator of Ji Cheng's club. He must have come here to watch. The bystanders were shocked to see Shi Hao Tian, 4th on the Celestial Champion ranking list. It also meant that he was the 4th strongest student of Champion University. They could imagine how strong he was. Since the Moon Group doesn't want to fight, why come here and fight? They're just humiliating themselves, said Lin Feng icily. His silhouette flickered, and he moved over to Meng Qing, landing in front of her. Ji Wuyo released a wave of chi towards Lin Feng. He shouted icily, eyes going red. "Lin Feng!" Ji Wuyo jumped and threw himself at Lin Feng. Dragon lights dazzled around him as he released a terrifying destructive strength. Meng Qing turned around and released ice energies. The ancient dragon immediately froze, and so did the destructive strength. At the same time, Meng Qing disappeared and snowflakes appeared, a graceful hand imprint among them. Ji Wuyo sensed a mysterious strength surround him. He released more destructive strength and dragons chanted louder. Meng Qing did a knife hand strike, and a celestial king chi invaded the atmosphere. She was suddenly surrounded by a holy celestial halo, and looked like a real goddess. That celestial woman in white has an amazingly powerful body type. She probably has a king body type, thought everybody. Meng Qing looked like a celestial goddess, extraordinary and untouchable. Ji Wuyo's strength turned into snowflakes. At the same time, he was violently forced backwards. I wonder what kind of man could marry her, thought the astonished crowd, shaking at this display. That woman was like a goddess, so unbelievably beautiful. Ji Wuyo looked like a buffoon in front of her. Lin Feng, go to another battle stage. The battle between Tiantai and the Moon Group is not over, said Ji Wuyo to Lin Feng coldly. Not over? Lin Feng smiled icily. How do you want to fight? A group battle or one-on-ones? The remaining people can fight in a group battle, replied Ji Wuyo coldly. All right, so a group fight, said Lin Feng, smiling coldly. He looked at Meng Qing, and she looked back at him, smiling resplendently. When she smiled, her snowflakes almost melted in homage. Lin Feng slowly walked over to Meng Qing. Back then when he had gone to the small world, he hadn't gone to the ancient world to see Meng Qing, because he didn't want to disturb her. The ancient world had helped her become stronger. Lin Feng wasn't disappointed. Meng Qing was incredibly talented. After having spent some time in the ancient world, she had become extremely strong. Lin Feng was very happy for her. When the crowd saw Lin Feng walk towards Meng Qing, they didn't understand what was going on. They looked at Meng Qing. She was smiling at him brilliantly. It made everyone shiver. Before Lin Feng showed up, she didn't smile and now she did? Lin Feng walked up to Meng Qing and put his hands on her shoulders. He even caressed her face. Meng Qing looked incredibly warm and gentle. The onlookers' brains felt as if they were going to explode. They were starting to ask themselves questions. Why had Meng Qing shown up in Champion University? And why was she on the battle stage? Lin Feng put his hands down and touched her hands. He smiled and said, "Silly girl. How come you didn't tell Lang Yi to message me? I would have come and picked you up." Meng Qing had found Champion University, probably thanks to Lang Yi. "I didn't want to disturb you, so I came here alone," said Meng Qing gently. The crowd was stunned. Lin Feng rolled his eyes and looked at Ji Wuyo. "Are we not having a group battle? What are you doing staring at me like that?" Ji Wuyo looked frozen and said rather emptily, "Are you inviting outsiders to help you?" "Outsiders?" Lin Feng glanced at Ji Wuyo coldly. "Ji Wuyo, are you saying that my wife is an outsider? So your wife isn't a member of the Ji clan?" His wife. The minds of the crowd were instantly blown. The celestial woman who could defeat Ji Wuyo was Lin Feng's wife? Married to the one who had defeated Ji Wuyo in the past. The crowd was completely dumbstruck. Yu Wenjing pulled a long face and stared at Meng Qing. Lin Feng's wife. Ji Wuyo and Yu Wenjing had been humiliated by Lin Feng in the past, and now, 3 years later, his wife had humiliated them. In the celestial country, Lin Feng and the two others continued traveling invisibly fast. They had already managed to escape from the strong cultivators, and Lin Feng's eyes weren't filled with death energy anymore. He was smiling indifferently and warmly. Years had passed, and finally he could see Meng Qing again. What a great thing. "Lin Feng, did something happen?" asked Aoshi when he saw Lin Feng smile. It looked quite strange, given their circumstances. Jian Meng looked as emotionless and expressionless as before. "Something great happened, of course," said Lin Feng with a broad smile. His two bodies were interconnected. His clone was happy too, but he was looking at Ji Wuyo icily. Lin Feng's clone hadn't noticed that Shi Haotian had gone over to Zhong Ke and Lu Yan. He whispered, "Did you notice?" Zhong Ke and Lin Feng smiled. They understood that he was talking about Lin Feng. "Maybe they are different people," whispered Zhong Quebec. "I don't care whether they're the same person or not. The consequences will be the same," said Shi Haotian coldly. Zhong Ke and Lu Yan smiled at him meaningfully. Lu Yan said, "This battle has nothing to do with us." Shi Haotian looked quite calm. They started talking using telepathy. At some point, Zhong Ke and Lu Yan looked angry. Zhong Ke also looked angry and nodded. On the battle stage, the strong cultivators of both sides gathered. Gigantic waves of qi pulsed in the sky. Then suddenly gigantic waves of oppressive energies rolled in waves. It was Zhong Ke. Lin Feng raised his head and looked over at Zhong Quebec. He didn't understand. "You come," said Zhong Ke pointing at Lin Feng. Lin Feng frowned and rose up into the air. He said coldly, "What do you want? You asked for people's help, and you want to kill people from Champion University. You must die," shouted Zhong Ke explosively. He waved his hand and strength surrounded Lin Feng. Lin Feng had the sensation his bones were going to be crushed. Earth strength. His expression changed drastically, and he shouted furiously, "You are getting involved in Tiantai and the Moon Group's battle on purpose? You're going to die," shouted Zhong Ke explosively. He waved his hands and suddenly, a terrifying strength bore down on Lin Feng's chest. He groaned with pain and released his qi. The pressure was too intense though, and he was driven away. The crowd was astonished. What was going on? "The Moon Group is shameless," said Ho Qing Lin, looking at Shi Haotian. Shi Haotian said icily, "The battle between the Moon Group and Tiantai can start for real." Instantly, the strong cultivators of the Moon Group attacked. Waves of strength pulsed. Meng Qing rose up in the air and flew towards Lin Feng. However, suddenly, some cyan dragons moved towards her. Ji Huio prevented her from going to his aid. Zhong Ke ran towards Lin Feng, releasing even more strength. Lin Feng started suffocating. Lin Feng saw a gigantic ancient soul bell moving towards him, and his face turned deathly pale. This was his clone, and it was a clone Lin Feng had made 2 years before. Even though Lin Feng's real body had progressed a lot, his clones couldn't compete with people like Zhong Ke, who was a strong cultivator of the Celestial Champion ranking list. Lin Feng felt powerless in front of him. The ancient bell rang, and moved towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng knew he was going to die if the bell crashed onto him. "Brother, let's cancel the battle," shouted Lin Feng. The bell rang again. Lin Feng's brain shook violently. Will Zhong Ke kill Lin Feng without having signed a contract? The crowd was stunned. What was going on? Why did Zhong Ke dare attack Lin Feng like that? Even though Zhong Ke was on the Celestial Champion ranking list, and had privileges, it didn't give him the right to kill other students as he wished. Chapter 1918. That's how it is. Snowflakes invaded the atmosphere. Meng Qing disappeared, and reappeared in front of Zone Quebec. She raised her hand, and the space around Zhong Ke started freezing. "Oomph." Zhong Ke groaned icily. He shook his right hand, and a mysterious strength rose up. The atmosphere started shaking, and the ice started cracking. "Piss off," shouted Zhong Ke explosively. The sound waves of his voice and his bell fused together and resonated in unison. The crowd started having auditory hallucinations. The sound waves seemed like a mountain pummeling their brains. Meng Qing's brain started shaking violently. Even though she understood Dao intent, her soul wasn't as powerful as her opponent's, so she couldn't do much. She had the impression her soul was going to collapse. Blood splashed out of her mouth and stained her white clothes and veil. "Meng Qing, get back." Lin Feng's eyes were filled with death. He looked at Zhong Ke icily and released as much strength as he could. He was furious it wasn't his real body. Otherwise he would have crushed Zone Quebec death intent. Surprising. Zhong Ke looked at Lin Feng and withdrew. His soul turned into threads of ancient bells, which all moved towards Lin Feng and rang in unison. Lin Feng had the sensation his soul was going to break apart. "Die!" shouted Zhong Ke explosively. Millions of bells rang out in unison. Lin Feng's silhouette became distorted. His clone was made of part of his soul. The most terrifying kind of attack for a clone was that kind of soul attack. Thunder rang out, and the crowd saw Lin Feng's body crack and explode. Suddenly, the air became completely silent. The crowd was astonished. The battle between the Moon Group and Tiantai had already exceeded all their expectations. If the rest of Ji Chang's club hadn't gotten involved, Lin Feng and that girl would have crushed the Moon Group, thought a few high-level emperors looking coolly, understanding what was going on. He had really learned Dao strength. Lu Yin was staring at Zone Quebec. This guy had learned about Dao's strength in the celestial country. The ancient bell attacks were too terrifying. The snowflakes in the sky became colder and colder. Meng Qing was still bleeding. The space around her became colder and froze. The crowd started shivering. The crowd was scared just glancing at her. Zhong Ke frowned and eyed Meng Qing. This girl was strange, her chi was terrifying. Tiantai's people looking furious. Ho Qing Lin was going insane. His reincarnation strength turned into a tornado. No, Lin Feng was right, we have to end this battle. Meng Qing cannot get injured again. Ho Qing Lin ground his teeth so hard that blood dripped from his mouth. He tried to calm down gradually, and looked at Meng Qing. Meng Qing was going insane. Meng Qing started crying, her face turning deathly pale. She looked crushed and desperate. Many people started feeling extremely sad when they saw such a breathtakingly beautiful woman like that. She looked crushed, her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Tears even appeared in some people's eyes. They felt very sad for her too. "Sister, Lin Feng is not dead," said Ho Qing Lin to Meng Qing using telepathy. Meng Qing shivered and turned around, staring at Ho Qing Lin. It was only one of Lin Feng's clones. "His real body is not here," Ho Qing Lin told her calmly. Lin Feng had shouted out before dying. It meant he wanted Ho Qing Lin to handle the situation. Ho Qing Lin understood that he had to control himself, and that he had to take care of Meng Qing. Nothing could happen to Meng Qing. Trust me, said Ho Qing Lin, nodding at Meng Qing. She shivered but tried to calm down. She coughed and blood fell down onto her shoes. She felt ice cold. That blood came from her heart. Sister, go back. Nothing can happen to you before Lin Feng comes back to university, said Ho Qing Lin to Meng Qing. Meng Qing didn't say anything and jumped back onto the ground. Ho Qing Lin looked at Zhong Ke icily and said, there are rules when it comes to battles in Champion University. Today, you killed one of my fellow disciples out of hand. Don't the law enforcement officers care about the rules? The Moon Group and Tiantai's cultivators had already stopped fighting. People from Tiantai looked furious and shouted, I'm Tiantai. I'm also a student in Champion University. Aren't there rules in this university? Nobody cares about them. Law enforcement officers just watched a student get killed and didn't react at all? Anyone can get involved in battles? Is it allowed to kill students as one wishes? Are there no rules in the end? Are there no rules after all? All the cultivators of Tiantai started shouting in unison. They were furious. Someone slowly rose up in the air. That person was wearing golden clothes. He looked at the crowd furiously. He looked majestic and domineering. Ho Qing Lin realized that Shihao Tian wasn't far away. He asked outsiders for help, and they came here to kill our people from Champion University. Killing them is fine, said the person in golden clothes. The crowd was stupefied. Lin Feng had called in outsiders? When did that happen? Asked Ho Qing Lin icily. Do I need to explain? Said that person indifferently. Tiantai's people were stupefied and pulled long faces at the farcical words. I'll report to the leaders of the university. If I made any mistake, then I'll bear the responsibility, said the law enforcement officer in golden clothes icily. Bear the responsibilities? How can you bear the responsibilities for killing my fellow disciple? Will you kill yourself? Said Ho Qing icily. His eyes were filled with reincarnation strength. Insolent! Shouted the law enforcement officer of the university explosively. Then he smiled coldly. The Moon Group and Tiantai can continue battling. I will take care of the higher ranking list. I will also start a legal procedure within the university. No need to worry about that. After that, he rolled up his sleeves and left. That law enforcement officer is on Ji Cheng's club's side. Lin Feng from Tiantai died. But because Ji Cheng's club has such a high social position in Champion University, nobody can do anything. The crowd was stupefied. Even in Champion University, strength was still the most important thing. In that world, rules could always be violated. But Lin Feng's wife was so strong. The university was probably going to attach importance to her, and the law enforcement officer would have to punish the killer. Since the university is against us too, this battle has become pointless, declared Ho Qing Lin. Then he looked at the other members of Tiantai and said, Tiantai's people, come back with me. Tiantai's cultivators looked furious and followed Ho Qing Lin as he left. The battle was over. Jiweo didn't look happy at all. He looked furious. We had agreed on a battle 3 years ago and you think you can leave now? Shouted Jiweo icily. Jiweo didn't intend to let them off. Zhong Ke came next to Shihao Tian. He wanted to say something. Brothers, from now, join hands with us to oppress Tiantai. If anyone refuses to help, they won't stay in the university for long, said Shihao Tian icily. Zhong Ke smiled and nodded. Of course. The crowd dispersed, but they felt sad. They had compassion for Tiantai and for Lin Feng. Surprisingly, Zhong Ke had killed him, and the university didn't do anything for him. He was such a genius. It was such a tragedy. But very quickly, they heard something and understood why things were happening that way. The astonishing news was that the Holy City had invited all of the influential groups and the 3 universities to come to Champion University. This time, it was going to be Ji Cheng's ceremony as a champion. The crowd started thinking that Lin Feng had maybe been Ji Cheng's first victim. Chapter 1919. Juzi is here to kill. After Tiantai and the Moon Group's battle at university, many people also said that they had been astonished by Tiantai's progress. They were actually able to compete with the Moon Group. That was incredible. The celestial woman in white was surprisingly Lin Feng's wife, and terrifyingly strong. She could oppress Ji Wuyo. Unfortunately, Lin Feng hadn't been able to fight against Ji Wuyo. Zhong Ke had killed him. Many people felt sad for Meng Qing. She was so talented, and now she had lost her husband. There were also many people who didn't care, as it might clear the way for them. The crowd sighed. Lin Feng had died, it was a pity. Now Ji Chang was going to become a champion. Ji Chang's club was going to become the most powerful group of champion university once again. If Tiantai wanted to rise within the university, it would be extremely difficult. Lin Feng had died, because Tiantai had tried to oppress Ji Chang's club. At the same time, Ji Chang's club now had an alliance with the Stone Group. They were going to oppress Tiantai together. However, they probably wouldn't kill Tiantai's people within the university again. They had killed Lin Feng, because Ji Chang was going to become a champion. He was the pride of the university. His name would be carved in the champion stone, and they would make a statue of him. He would have incredible privileges within the establishment too. They had killed one person, but it didn't matter that much. Suddenly, Tiantai had lost its reputation. Everybody was hiding, and didn't come out anymore. They knew that if they came out, the Moon Group and the Stone Group would harass them. It was as if they had disappeared from Champion University in the blink of an eye. Elsewhere in Champion University, the atmosphere was lively because of Ji Chang's ceremony. He would become Ying Cheng's successor, the new champion. However, the date hadn't been determined yet. Some people said that the university was already making Ji Chang's statue. However, Ji Wuya wasn't excited at all. He wanted to dazzle more than his brother. He had gone back to meditating in seclusion. In the celestial country, Lin Feng and the two others had already crossed the Milky Way battlefield, and were on the side of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Currently, they were resting in a hidden cave. Lin Feng was seated cross-legged. His soul filled the cave, and a terrifying vitality kept undulating in the air. The cave had turned into a holy life place. The life energy was even spilling out of the cave. Grass and trees became even greener, and started growing much faster. Jian Mang was outside of the cave. Aoshi was far away in the distance, and came up to Jian Mang. He asked, "Has he recovered yet?" "I don't know," Jian Mang replied indifferently. He was annoyed. He didn't know what was wrong with Lin Feng either. Lin Feng's soul had suddenly been severely damaged, and his qi had become really weak. That's why he was in a cave. He was trying to heal his soul. A terrifying vortex suddenly appeared and filled the air. It suddenly turned into a terrifying death strength, and grass and trees started dying. The death strength then moved towards the cave, as if that cave had become the entrance of hell. A silhouette slowly came out of the cave. He was surrounded by death lights and looked scary. A single glance at him sufficed to make someone's soul shake. "Lin Feng, what's wrong?" asked Aoshi to Lin Feng. He didn't understand why Lin Feng had been suddenly injured. "I had a clone, and my clone was killed in the outside world, so my soul was damaged," replied Lin Feng. Aoshi was shocked. Lin Feng had a clone. How incredible! "And have you recovered yet?" asked Aoshi. "I'm all right. The injury wasn't that bad," replied Lin Feng, looking indifferent. He had created that clone over 3 years before, and it had progressed really quickly. Therefore, his clone's death hadn't had too much of a big impact on his real body. Of course, Lin Feng was also able to recover that quickly, because he understood life and death strength. It was extremely useful for his soul. The passage of the celestial country is soon going open again. "Aoshi, what do you intend to do?" Lin Feng asked Aoshi. "I don't have any plans. What about you? You wanted to come here, but you don't seem that interested in fighting?" "I'm from the continent of the Nine Clouds. I accidentally ended up in hell. I decided to fight my way to the other side of the Milky Way battlefield, because I want to get back to the continent of the Nine Clouds," said Lin Feng flatly, no longer bothering to hide the fact. Aoshi was astonished and laughed. "Interesting. You surprisingly ended up in hell? I'll come to the continent of the Nine Clouds with you then." "You want to go to the continent of the Nine Clouds?" asked Lin Feng, somewhat surprised. "Can you get to the Dragon Clan from the continent of the Nine Clouds?" The continent of the 9 clouds is all the same. We can also get to the dragon clan from there. Traveling and fighting a little bit would be a good thing. I could also become a great emperor there," replied Aoshu casually. Lin Feng nodded. "No problem." However, the earth and sky started shaking, and rumbling sounds spread in the air. Mountains starting breaking apart. Rumbling sounds spread in the air as gigantic stones fell from the sky. Mountains broke. A terrifying demon chi filled the air. Lin Feng raised his head, startled at what he saw. There was a silhouette waiting there in the sky. It was Juzi from the ancient demon clan. He came here too? Lin Feng stared at Juzi. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with death energy. Juzi's eyes were filled with demon energy. Juzi looked calm and composed, majestic and dignified, like a king in his element. Damn ancient demon imprint, thought Lin Feng. Aoshu released dragon chi. Dragons started chanting as his chi rose to the skies. Stones kept exploding all around them, and a nearby hill even collapsed. Juzi just looked down at them loftily. "What a powerful demon cultivator," said Aoshu. However, Lin Feng looked angry and was staring at Juzi. He said icily, "Since you came here, you will never go back." "Aoshu Jianmeng, I need some time," Lin Feng said to them. "I'll give it a try," said Aoshu. He rose up in the air and threw himself at Juzi. He released terrifying dragon energies, which turned into dragon claws, and made the atmosphere shake violently. Aoshu was really strong, even for someone at the top of the Huang Qi layer. He understood aggressive Dao strength, and his physical attacks were terrifying. He was probably stronger than ordinary great emperors already. Juzi was expressionless and emotionless. A gigantic demon imprint came crashing down, looking like a gigantic hand. His black demon eyes twinkled with indestructible Devamara strength. The mountains around kept exploding and breaking apart. "Die!" shouted Aoshu. An aggressive strength emerged. However, a gigantic demon word appeared in the sky, shining with terrible power. Both fighters' souls collided. Aoshu shook violently and was hurled back. What a terrifying fighter! Aoshu sighed. With his dragon body and aggressive Dao, he had just been forced backwards, as if this demon was invincible. Dragons chanted, and Aoshu turned into a gigantic blood dragon, staring at Juzi icily. Lin Feng came forwards, as a deployment spell appeared on the ground. A layer of illusion chi appeared, and Lin Feng slowly disappeared into the illusion. In his spirit's world, he took out his celestial evolution chessboard and stepped aboard it. Life and death lights twinkled, pulling his world cosmic energies into the celestial evolution chessboard. Juzi had crossed the celestial country to find Lin Feng. In Lin Feng's small world, only his own cosmic energies worked. What would Juzi do in there? Lin Feng jumped onto the celestial evolution chessboard. A million of lights glittered and changed. Marks intertwined. Cosmic strength pulsed on the deployment spell. In the outside world, the earth and sky became red. Juzi's blood started boiling. Aoshu moved forwards, Jianmeng helping him. It was still too difficult for them to truly fight against Juzi, especially for Jianmeng. It was the first time Jianmeng felt so powerless in his life. Juzi was terrifying. Chapter 1920. Demonic Punisher Aoshu had turned into a blood dragon. He was extremely strong, especially after having turned into a blood dragon, with explosive power, and his blood cosmic energies was also terrifying. However, Juzi was also terrifyingly strong. His physical body was almost indestructible. The cultivators of the ancient demon clan all learned how to improve their physical strength. Break! A gigantic demon hand appeared and grabbed Aoshu. Aoshu shook violently, and his dragon scales started bleeding. His physical strength was incredible, but when facing Juzi, he seemed weak. Lights twinkled. Jianmeng's sword appeared again, moving unspeakably fast, but Juzi didn't even look at it. An ancient demon imprint appeared and blotted out the sky. The light strength made the demon hand move aside, but the demon word crashed onto his head. Juzi lunged forwards. His target was Lin Feng. He didn't care about Jianmeng and Aoshu. Aoshu's dragon blood steamed so hard it was shrieking. Juzi sensed his blood boiling. His muscles twitched as bloodthirsty dragons moved towards him. Jizzy moved his hand away. Lin Feng, shouted Aoshu furiously. He wanted to warn Lin Feng. Lin Feng was still seated on the ground. He looked up at Jizzy with his death eyes. Jizzy came slamming down from the sky. However, Lin Feng's silhouette penetrated into the ground, and a terrifying strength crashed on the ground, forming a crater. There was a passage under the ground. Lin Feng had made it just now, and managed to go inside. Jizzy just sneered, convinced he could still find Lin Feng inside the hole. Jizzy continued moving down into the passage, but Lin Feng turned into a beam of light. He didn't dodge or flee. He moved directly towards Jizzy. Jizzy didn't look worried. Apart from his matters of his wife, nothing could affect him. A mysterious chi emerged. The earth and sky changed around Jizzy. He frowned as Lin Feng disappeared. And then Jizzy also disappeared. What's going on? Aoshu didn't understand. He realized that both cultivators had disappeared, and a mysterious chi surrounded everybody. Don't go inside, shouted Jian Meng to Aoshu instantly. Aoshu was startled, and glanced at Jian Meng. He will solve the problem himself, said Jian Meng calmly, and his relaxed expression did more to convince Aoshu than his words. Lin Feng was inside his spirit world on his celestial evolution chessboard. Jizzy descended from the sky and glanced around. He said to Lin Feng icily, "This is how you kidnapped my wife?" Lin Feng nodded. "You obtained a world?" asked Jizzy. He was a bit surprised. This was rare. He knew that he had been tricked once already. Lin Feng had kidnapped his wife and brought her in here. Suddenly, the gigantic celestial evolution chessboard became dazzling, and chi rose to the skies. Lin Feng and Jizzy disappeared into a shattering deployment spell. A gigantic life and death pattern twinkled about them. Deployment spell. Jizzy was astonished. What a powerful deployment spell. Break! Jizzy punched out. Ancient demon imprints shot towards the deployment spell. However, nothing happened. His strength had disappeared. That's an illusion-shattering deployment spell. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with death strength. His life and death pattern contained a terrifying death chi. The death strength whistled and condensed around the deployment spell. Yet suddenly, the atmosphere became green and filled with vitality. Death strength moved towards Jizzy. His expression finally changed. Even though he had an indestructible body, he was still immortal. Jizzy rose up into the air. However, he realized that that place didn't contain death strength like hell, and he couldn't use the cosmic energies of the earth and sky like in the outside world. Lin Feng then disappeared from the deployment spell, reappearing outside as Jizzy attacked the deployment spell. The air started bending, like it was going to break any time. Lin Feng's expression changed. Jizzy was still terrifyingly strong. With his strength, even with the celestial evolution chessboard, inside his own world, with his deployment spell, and so on, Jizzy still managed to break the deployment spell. He was using physical strength to break the deployment spell. Besides, the death strength didn't corrode his body as Lin Feng expected. Let's see how long you will survive. Lin Feng took out his sun disk. Jizzy saw a gigantic sun move towards him. The atmosphere shook, and Lin Feng's silhouette flashed. In Lin Feng's spirit, Jizzy could only use his own cosmic energies, but Dao power was connected to the cosmic energies of the earth and sky, and his physical strength was simply astonishing. Of course, Dao power without cosmic energies wasn't very efficient. Jizzy could resist, but it was going to be more and more difficult for him. 3 days later, Jizzy was surrounded by a gray energy. He sat down cross-legged inside the deployment spell. His eyes didn't look as demonic as before. He was imprisoned, and he couldn't do much. He had underestimated Lin Feng. He hadn't thought Lin Feng could be so terrifying. Even with great imperial weapons, Lin Feng wasn't supposed to be able to pose a threat to him. But Lin Feng had much more terrifying methods than great imperial weapons. Deployment spells were dreadful. Jizzy stood up. He had to break the deployment spell, otherwise he'd die in here. He started attacking, but he felt great pressure. A mountain was falling from the sky. Die! Jizzy shouted furiously. He released ancient demon strength, but his attack was suddenly destroyed. After that, Lin Feng moved the mountain away. He took out a great imperial weapon and reappeared in the deployment spell, staring at Jizzy. Since you came to the celestial country, you won't go back. Lin Feng waved his hands. Death energy surrounded Jizzy. Jizzy regretted everything. He didn't have great imperial weapons with him. He should have taken some, but he hadn't. He would have been able to break the deployment spell if he had. The problem was that in the celestial country, he couldn't communicate with the outside world. Now it was even worse. He was trapped in Lin Feng's world. 10 days later, Aoxiu and Jian Meng sensed a strange qi. Lin Feng still hadn't come out. What was going on? What's going on inside? Asked Aoxiu to Jian Meng. Just wait, said Jian Meng calmly. If Lin Feng died against Jizzy, he would be free. If Lin Feng didn't die, then Jian Meng wouldn't be able to escape. Nobody knew when Lin Feng would come out. If Jian Meng went to the continent of the 9 clouds alone, it would be extremely dangerous. The mysterious qi disappeared and finally, Lin Feng appeared again. Lin Feng's eyes were still as black as a demon. Lin Feng, how did it go? Asked Aoxiu. It's over, said Lin Feng calmly, as if nothing had happened. Aozu couldn't imagine how incredible the battle between Lin Feng and Juzhi had been. The ancient demon clan would be devastated if they learned about this. In the ancient demon clan, some people were waiting outside of a palace. In front of them was a mysterious old man surrounded by an incredible demonic energy. A dazzling demon light turned into 2 light beams. 2 pitch-black eyes appeared. The crowd raised their heads and watched the 2 demon lights penetrate into the palace. The strong cultivators of the crowd began to sweat coldly. Ancient demon vision technique. When Jizzy was born, the ancestor's eyes didn't even appear. Now Jizzy fell, and the demon eyes appeared. Is this the will of heaven? Wondered the leader of the group. Jizzy's talisman had broken not long ago. Someone cried inside the palace. People shivered. Their leader said, "The ancient demon clan will do all it can to raise little Jizzy. We have named him the demonic punisher." Indeed, ancestor. Everybody bowed. Someone continued, "Ancestor, should we avenge him?" "Leave it to the demonic punisher," said the ancestor indifferently. Then he flickered away and disappeared. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.